Hello everyone and welcome to Bxb'S Bits and Bobs episode 22. We are back. It's been another 2 weeks. I'm repping the initiative today because that's how much I like Mass Effect. Yeah, that's right. I'm wearing a t-shirt for the new game right now. That will refer to a question Joel put in the show notes regarding how much has Ben spent on Mass Effect at this point. And we'll cover that. I promise we'll cover that. But first of all,
to not like it would seem.
Oh, okay, fighting talk, that one there, yeah. I'll address all of that because I've noticed an interesting trend with coverage on this game up until this point. But yeah, we'll talk about that shortly. But let me introduce the guests. My co-host, I think, is a fairer way of describing them on the show today. We've got Richard Worrell, Views Editor, my right-hand man, my paramour, my love, my muse.
Love you.
Love you too. Kiss, kiss. We've got Adam Breeden, PC Reviews Editor.
Hello, I'm back from my death. Brush with death is the word I'm trying to say.
Not been well. How you all right now?
Yeah, I'm all right now. I went to the doctor's and he gave me a thorough telling off. He said, "Why didn't you come earlier with this?" And I was like, "Well, I had some friends to see in Bristol, and if I took all the painkillers at once, it was okay for a few hours." And he was like, "Yeah, the back of your throat's starting to rot. You've actually got the start of like necrotic flesh there. You need to seriously stop with what you're doing with your life." Have a think. Yeah. He said, literally like bits of my tonsils were like rotting. I mean, that would explain the intense agony.
You were becoming a zombie, so you were the living dead.
Yeah. I was about to become patient zero.
Well, I guess for the four white middle-aged men doing a video game podcast, at least one of us had to become the zombie at some point. I mean, just by sort of the standards of living here. So
you became a zombie, but you're okay now. After
well, yeah, he's put me on the strongest antibiotics.
Zombrex.
Yeah, it turns out Zombrex is I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this, but it's penicillin with a bunch of extra words around it. But yeah, very, very strong antibiotics, and they're really good fun. Like, I didn't so much go to sleep last night as enter an alternative dimension populated entirely by my darkest fears. Truly incredible side effects.
Right, write that shit down. You've probably got a winning horror novel coming out of that one if you wanted to, Stephen King style. And we've also got, actually introduced the fourth member of the team here today. We've got Joel Summerfield, top contributor and person who writes nice things for the website.
Hey, hello everybody.
And if you do ever come to EGX with me, I promise to give you a fancy title so that they talk to you.
Okay, cool.
Right, okay, deal. That's how that it usually works. If you need to physically rep, then I will invent something. What could Joel's job title?
I was going to say, what a fancy title? Give it to me.
Content bitch.
Content bitch. I want to use something with the word czar.
Word czar.
Just the czar. The Bxb'S czar. How about
head of words. That word.
That's pretty good. Head of words is not bad. Yeah.
That makes me sound like I literally come round and have to manage and install Word on each of your computers, and I'm like responsible for the kind of software side of it.
That works too. But I think we're going to jump into some of these show notes because, in a strange quirk of fate, have we all watched Arrival in the same 2-week period?
I haven't.
Oh, just Adam. Okay. Have any of you seen it before? Because it was one I criminally missed last year, and I was like, God damn, I was really annoyed that I didn't get to the cinema to see it. But I bought it on Xbox. I think I did. Yeah, bought the Xbox video version and watched it on there. Which I have to say that streaming has come a long way, hasn't it? It always impresses me how good those video streams are now.
Xbox video has always been good. Not that it's
has it always been one of the better ones, has it? Because I've always been a physical.
Going back to Avatar is when they started to really push it. It's really good quality then.
That's rich. Unlike Netflix, I can't really see a difference between the Blu-ray and that HD video stream on Xbox, which is I think quite impressive.
It's not
I'm on a 40-inch TV like a normal human being. I guess if I was on a 70-inch or something, you'd maybe pick it up a bit more obviously. But no, what did you guys think of the film?
Yeah, it's good. I saw it 20 years in the future and came back to tell myself to watch it this week.
That was a massive spoiler. That was a massive spoiler for the whole concept of that film. You just basically made it so nobody's gonna see it. No one.
You could have just left it as Richard talking bollocks as usual.
Yeah, it becomes a spoiler when Ben shouts, "That's a massive spoiler." Now I know it's a spoiler.
I still think it funny why I had to leave the Brit Xbox. Was it like, what were you guys using? Snapchat or something, like group chat that you guys had arranged at the end of the WhatsApp? That was it. Yeah, I had to leave it because I spoiled the end of The Martian by pointing out that Mark Watney was going to get off alive. He's the fucking star of that film. There's no way he's dying on Mars. I'm sorry, guys. Like, work it out. Like, for Christ's sake. And I got told off so much.
Has there ever been a sci-fi film about being marooned in space where it's like at the end of the film are like, yeah, we can't do anything. The guy's going to just fucking starve to death in his little death pod.
I couldn't tell you the title, but yeah, look up sci-fi movies in the 70s because they all had negative endings.
Fair enough.
So, like every single one of them was like, yeah, you think this is bad? This is how it's going to go. Yeah, it went that way. Yeah. They're all dead. Just fucking move on. Yeah.
Actually, I suppose Dark Star sort of ends like that. Dark Star ends with a very weird ending. Yeah.
Talk about sci-fi movies. You guys seen the new Alien Covenant trailer? Because I can't wait to see the order they all get murdered in. Talking about people dying in films. I feel like I should go to like fucking the bookies and like put it Franco first, and then he's definitely dying early on, and then because he's hardly in it. He was only there for like a few days on the shoot, so we know that. I think that's going to be a fun one to watch. I think. And did you see, guys, the new Justice League trailer just came out today as well? The first official one.
What do you think of that? I almost let myself get excited, but then I remembered.
That's exactly what happened to me. I was like, that's a good. Oh, I'm getting pumped. That was cool. And then everything they've done since the second Nolan Batman film has been shit. So I probably shouldn't get excited. I mean, like, let's just remember the track record at this point. Oh, it looks like the Avengers because that's what they're trying to ape. So it's just like, yeah, right. I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, like, Joel, you watched it, didn't you?
I literally just watched it about 2 minutes ago. The trailer looks good, but I'm not going to fall into that trap.
No.
Like, a lot of film trailers are good, and then when they're all lacking the insurance that backs up their claims. So yeah, I'll wait and see as it gets nearer. Maybe see what the reviews say, the critics think.
Even Suicide Squad had a great trailer.
Yep. I mean, I think that's the best thing they've done, but it's not exactly a high bar, is it? So. Because it doesn't feel connected like the rest of them are trying to do, which I kind of appreciated. But yeah, it does. I don't know. The Justice League trailer was like, it was also by the nose. I'm also not a massive fan of the color palette, the tone they're going for in that film, where it just feels so unnecessarily dour and dark with all the costuming and all the set design and everything feels
I think that is the one thing I universally like about it, is the visual tone.
Really?
It's so different to Marvel.
But it isn't different. It's just it's very like designed in a Warner Brothers office where the executives all sat down and went, right, this is going to be serious. So we're going to color correct everything down 20%, and then we're going to desaturate this and that, and we're going to make it all look like Watchmen. Yeah, cool.
What's wrong with that? That's great.
It's just great.
There's no substance to justify that sort of noir palette that it's got, and. As soon as you watch the film, it feels more lightweight than a Marvel movie. But Marvel gets away with it because it, wears its lightweight sort of content on its sleeve, doesn't it?
I think the Marvel trick is good casting, good directors, good actors. That's kind of where they pull it through. I mean, like if you think about Iron Man, right? If that film hadn't had Robert Downey Jr. in the lead, considering how that production of that film went. They didn't have a script. They were making it up as they were going along. If they didn't have somebody who could pull that together the way he did, that would have been it for the Marvel films. You wouldn't have got any more. So and would have been a very, very different situation now. That's why they pay him so much money, because they owe it all to him, basically. So it's a curious one. Anyway, Arrival was very good, though. You could definitely tell it was adapted from a short story, though, couldn't you? I felt like it was strung out a little bit to fill the 2 hours. Like it was quite padded in places. Very good performances, though. Nice to see Jeremy Renner doing something that wasn't just your kind of supporting action guy, which seems to be his usual thing.
Yeah, it's weird to see him in more of a cerebral sort of role. But I've heard a lot of negative things about this film.
About Arrival?
Before and
really?
after.
Oh, okay.
I think more from right-wing mindsets, because the idea of the film's motif in communication is good, friends are good,
Yeah,
you know,
this is not the film for the current year, then.
Yeah, it's not in the right time. But yeah, I really.
No, I think about the last couple of weeks. I've basically been playing. I've been off work and I've been playing a lot of games and watching a lot of films. I also saw Logan. You guys seen Logan?
Not yet.
I've seen it at the cinema.
It's good, isn't it? I mean, it's actually almost very good, to be honest. Like it's very, very different for something of that genre. I'll not spoil what happens, but they all die. I mean, work it out.
I had a very amusing discussion with my brother about that film and how it ends. I was very surprised at just how dark the ending to that film is.
Mm-hmm. That I was proper cut up in the cinema at the end of that. Like that little bit, you know, at the end where he's talking to X-23, and wow, I was like, that's some powerful stuff. That was actually a surprisingly mature, non-genre kind of quality filmmaking. And again, you know, they made it for very little money, got an R rating on it because that's what they wanted to do, and I think it's got some great integrity to it. Really, a really powerful movie. I definitely want to see it again. Yeah, really cool. Really
I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was. There are bits of it that I kind of felt a bit just. I don't know, just not kind of what I expected. It was very also. There's a lot of gore, kind of stabbing and gore and stuff in there. It seemed to have over-exaggerated. Well, it's more so than all the other ones that I've seen. Yeah, because, like, the first thing we did when we left, my wife was like, God, that was incredibly violent, wasn't it?
Yeah, because this is the Wolverine film they've always wanted to make but never been able to. That's why they were saying, we're only going to come back if we can make this as an R rating, as a 15 film, you know, in the UK, and therefore show the violence. If you read Wolverine comics, that's what they're like. It is just him impaling people on his claws continuously, stabbing people in the head, cutting limbs off. You know, that is what a good Wolverine comic is all about. And the fact that they've been able to really stick to the proper vision of that character and not have to water it down. Because if you think about other Wolverine films, right, the only difference is in the action is that you get the same level of violence but without the consequence. I.e., he stabs a bunch of dudes, but you never see the blood. You never see the limbs come off, which is just selling this fantasy that doesn't actually make sense if you think about the character and what he's doing. So I think, you know, I thought really well done. The fact that they made him much older and he was like at the end of his days, he's in a bad way and stuff. I'm trying not to spoil it for you, Richard. But you know, it was I thought very, very good. I also very much enjoyed Kong. Kong was great fun. Really stupid. If anybody is interested in a big monster movie with a giant ape, you can't go wrong. It's cornered that genre.
Have you seen John Wick?
I haven't seen John Wick 2, sadly.
Probably as good as the first. Probably an even heavier body count. I like body count movies, but this is above and beyond. And it kind of sets it up for a third one, which I would be well up for. John Wick is my new favorite.
No, you got it. Superhero. Yeah, that he's definitely a superhero. That first film is a superhero origin story. I mean, that's exactly what it is, and so this is more of that. Which I do want to see it. However, I was really burnt when people told me, "Oh yeah, you know, the Raid, the sequel to that's just as good as the first one," and then it was shit. And I was really disappointed by the Raid 2.
Raid 2.
No, it's nowhere near as good as that first movie. Not even close to the tightness of the action and the choreography in that first film. It's got some good scenes, but it's so padded. It's just full of shit you don't care about. Just give me the next cool action beat. You know, fuck's sake. It's all foreigners. Who cares? So
it's all foreigners.
Come on, man. You got to get on message now. Like you don't want to be anti-message about these things, right? Like, you know, the ball we're you know, it's happening. Brexit's happening. Trump's in charge. Come on, you got to bring the racist back. Bring the racist back. That's what it's all about.
Make podcasting great again. Come on.
That's it. Yeah, come on.
On that note, I watched Get Out as well, which is a horror film for black people. Seen that?
No.
How come you watched it if it's a horror film for black people?
Isn't a horror film for black people just the news? Isn't that?
Very good. Yeah, no, that's very yeah. I have read a lot about Get Out though. It's directed by I forget which of Key and Peele, but one of them, yeah.
I don't know. It's a black guy.
It's one of you don't know. Oh, you don't know the Key. All right, you don't know Key and Peele. That is all right. But yeah, it's one of those guys. They're comedians, sketch show comedians, but they've now branching out into making movies and.
Oh, that
doing
makes sense because it is really funny, as well as being sort of invasive body horror and psychologically quite disturbing. it is really funny in between that somehow.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
watch
meant
it.
to be-
I don't really want to say about
No.
it. Definitely don't want
Unlike
to spoil it.
spoiling Arrival for everyone with the first thing you said on the podcast, you want to actually be cagey about this.
We agreed. You sport that.
Shut
That's
up.
You.
Shut up. I hate you. Always getting me in trouble. And our final bit of film news for the podcast here, which is seemingly what the first 20 minutes of this episode has been about. I just landed on my map this morning, right? I'm going to show my wife, because she's never seen it, Weird Science.
Oh, dear. I'm going to put a bet down that film does not hold up.
I was like, how have you never seen Weird Science? We had this conversation, and the power of Amazon being, I talked about it yesterday and it arrived today. For the DVD cost me less than renting it on Xbox. So I was like, all right, I'll just buy the fucking DVD then. And it was like, she's never seen it. I'm gonna blow her mind with possibly the strangest John Hughes movie ever made. So you guys have all seen it, yeah?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it end to end.
All right.
And Joel's shaking his head.
No, not seen it. Not seen it myself.
I was
No.
probably 12 years old when I saw it. So I may well have missed some clever satirical undertones to it, because I remember a extremely dodgy film.
Well, the concept is two nerds, and this is very apt, I think, for the moment about how, the treatment of women and stuff in society. Two nerds log into their computer, design the perfect woman, then there's like a storm, and she comes to life. And then hilarity ensues.
So it's like Gamergate crossed with Frankenstein.
Yeah, that's... I was like, it's been a long time since I've seen this as well. We're going to have a Sunday afternoon watching this film tomorrow, and I'm really curious as to how someone who's never seen it and watches it in 2017 and how that goes down. I'm going to watch her probably more than I watch the film. It should be very, very curious.
Yeah, watch her pack her things is what I'm not living with this Neanderthal any fucking more.
It could go that way. It could go that way. God, you guys have done a lot of stuff in the last 2 weeks. I'm just looking at these show notes and trying to pick lots of DIY. Everybody's remodeling their bathrooms, and and somebody else is doing kitchens. Is it kitchens as well? Hand plastering. What is going on with you active men? I mean, come on. Be lazy and awful like me.
We're of that age now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Old men who have to do house things.
Homeowner, the burden of being one, and then actually having time off as well. So when your wife's like, well, what are you doing with your time off? My original plan of, well, I was just going to catch up on my huge backlog of games doesn't actually take priority. Instead, it's other tasks like, well, you could do the tiling, or you could finish the garden, and you need to fix the fence, and all those things all those snagging issues that you've been ignoring for years anyway. So yeah. After Richard set the tone in the last podcast with his toilet fixing story, I thought, we should have this little DIY corner section. What have you done this, for this 2 weeks?
The Practical Nerd's Guide to Homework.
I watched my wife fix the window.
You're such a man.
I mean,
the window.
Sorry?
Through the window as she was doing.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm actually getting some, but we're getting actually weirdly enough not next week, the week after, but yeah, we're getting tiling sorted out in our bathroom as well. Then, so it's kind of like it is a strangely like spring thing, isn't it? Lots of DIY. It's when when the sun comes up and it shows all the shit problems in your house like in natural light that you can't ignore because it's winter and you don't want to go outside. You kind of like, all right, I guess we should actually like do some of this stuff, I guess. But yeah, it's quite, now you mentioned it, it's kind of weird. And your toilets now, the toilet you fixed, Richard, is getting ripped out and you're going to get a whole new bathroom sorted out.
Oh yeah, I'll just pay
Oh,
for the
dude!
new bathroom today.
What are you doing? What are you doing, man?
Is that because of the job you did, the quality of the finish that you've now had to just nuke it from orbit and get a whole new bathroom?
No, the quality is superb. I'm gutted it's going to be ripped out, but I only did it because it was literally impossible to take a shit in my own house. So
It's a fair reason.
I had to do it.
That's a good reason.
And I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it properly. So that was a half job. Although it was a job well done, I'm getting the rest of it done properly. So I won't be fitting it myself. You'd be glad to know.
So while you guys have been slaving away with your DIY, you know, getting up early on your days off to do these important tasks, I got up early this morning. I got up early to watch the Australian Grand Prix qualifying session because the F1 season is back. Yes. And I am it's the one other, I think video games, I think F1 is more of a passion for me even than wrestling. I absolutely adore F1 and I watched quite so I'll take that. Joel, you're an F1 guy as well. I don't think I realised.
Yep. Yeah. The only thing I don't really do is I still refuse to buy Sky just for the Formula One. I can't justify the cost. So I didn't actually watch qualifying this morning, but yeah, I've got a friend who has Sky and he'll record it and I'll go around and watch it. So I might be going around his to watch the race tomorrow. But yeah, I'm a big F1 fan. So
that's fantastic. Well, maybe one day if we can get one other person, we can do a podcast. Just saying. If we can find one other Bxb'S that would be willing to talk about fucking race cars. I adore it, mate. I've been following it on the off season. I've been looking at all the cars and how they've been changing with this season. Obviously, Bernie's exit, Rosberg's exit, Bottas going up to Mercedes. Lots and lots of changes. Lots of new drivers. New rules, loads of new regs. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it will just fly over everybody else's head and that would be really boring. However, it was a really good qualifying session. It shows Ferrari's back on pace and actually going to threaten Mercedes, which excites me so much. It could be actually an exciting season with some real competition at the front of the grid. So I am pumped for that race tomorrow morning at like 4:30 in the morning. I don't think I'm going to watch that live. But, you know, you alluded to it. I do have the Sky F1 channel. So unlike Channel 4 in their shitty, only shows 10 races in full, and then they lose it completely in 2018.
Yeah, it's going behind a complete paywall, which is a bit of a frustration. So
I would say this: don't worry too much. I think Liberty Media, the new owners, are going to make an OTT service like the WWE Network.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
I think that's coming. I think that seems inevitable. And I know I'd pay for that as well. But anyway, that was what I wanted to say. Just geeking out about that a lot while Adam and Richard just like go to sleep quietly in the corner. But I look. It's the same for any of this geekness stuff. In it, you can geek out about anything nowadays, right? You can be anything from a football geek to a video game geek and everything in between. Video, superhero shit, comics, movies, and I really get into there's so much to geek about in F1. There's all the maths, the teams, the stats, the drivers. There's so much stuff in there that you can get into the minutiae of it, and that's why I think it's engaging like wrestling is or video games are, in that same way, because there's so many little details.
You had me at maths.
The thing I look for in a truly world-class sport is a fundamental rewrite of the rules every year. The best thing to do for your international sport.
Yeah, but in a way that's awesome because they're always trying to make it more interesting and they're always trying to make it more exciting for the viewers. They're trying to think of ways to make it more engaging, and I think that's cool that they do that in F1. I really do.
I think it's cool. It's not really worked that well. Particularly, it tends to sort of shift the advantage from one person to another. But yeah, hopefully, Liberty Media, I think, have got some good ideas going forwards, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out over like the season and next season and the season after.
I think it'll be more like next year you see it in the year after. But yeah, exciting times in F1. But we'll move on. We'll move on from that so we don't bore everybody to tears. First of all, before I jump into the main topic of the episode, I don't know who put this on the show notes, but somebody mentioned EGX.
Oh, I did. I put EGX Res. I was just curious if anyone's going. I'm not, but I thought it might be a discussion point.
Which one is Res? Is that the little one in London?
Yeah, it's the smaller one in London, yeah.
The indie-focused one. I priced up getting a stand there 1 year, but then looked at the numbers, had a little cry, and didn't go to EGX Res.
Well, my intention is to get in September to head to the main one in Birmingham. I'll probably do that. We didn't do it last year, but for 2 previous years, I covered it for the site. One we were just for Xbox, and got some good interviews and stuff out of that. So I might try and do that this year. And obviously, anybody else would like to come along, be fans, be it you guys, have a meet up. I think it's a great excuse to do that sort of shit as well. But it all depends how easy it is for people to get to Birmingham. But yeah, pencil it in, guys. I'm definitely up for it this year. So that could be a fun one.
They switched them around, didn't they, last year? So the main one was Birmingham and the other was London, or the other way around?
It's because the venue they had in London got closed, so they had to relocate to somewhere else. And I think it's a size thing. EGX has become pretty fucking massive. So yeah, that I just throwing it out there, but we'll obviously talk about that more as the year progresses. It's still very early days. Okay, so let's just get into the main topic, the main game that everybody's been talking about, for better or for worse, I will say, and that is Mass Effect Andromeda. And I know I've sunk about 40 hours now. I know Joel's played, about 20, Joel, would you say?
Probably about 20, 25 hours now, yeah.
You guys, I haven't seen Richard on his Xbox. I think he's been mostly on his Switch, so I know he's not been playing it.
All about Zelda.
Still about Zelda. And Adam, you don't care or not an opportunity?
Not really. Yeah, Mass Effect games are just good conversation trees marred by terrible shooting gameplay.
Not anymore. The shooting is probably the best thing now about them. Like, honestly. So,
that's not the direction I would have gone.
No, I don't mean it like that. But right, let me first of all preface. We'll talk about some of the weird little issues before I actually get into the game. I'll be doing a full review of the game. It'll probably be at least a 10-minute long video, and that'll be out in the next 2-3 days, I suspect, because I think I'm getting there now in the game. It's a big game. But anyway, first of all, let me mention. Everybody's talking about Mass Effect, right? And a lot of people are talking about it negatively. However, when you start digging into what a lot of these people are saying, you realize they've only played between 2 and sort of 8 hours of the game. And that's starting to really piss me off. Now, this is even coming from some outlets I really like, like the Giant Bombs of the world and the things like that. But these guys are like, well, we've got to give our hot take. However, we've only had time to play 2 hours of the game. But these are my opinions based on that. And it just, that game really gets a lot better once you get into it. Like, it starts a bit slow. You don't really get out of the tutorializing area for about 6 to 8 hours anyway. Like, when you actually get on your own ship and start to be able to explore the galaxy. And I think everybody basing their opinions off of Joel, do you dislike the animations in this game? Do you have a problem with how people look? Because I really don't.
No,
and I don't understand why people are freaking out about it. I
don't think the animation's that too bad. And funnily enough, there have been a few parts where I've been trying to specifically look for it. And I have got other problems with some of the cinematics, I would say, other issues, but it's not the animation specifically. But we'll go through the issues possibly. Do you want to go through them now, or should we work towards that? Should we go through some of the positives?
I mean, I think it's fair to say we can talk about the glitches from the offset or the perceived glitches, because that was a bigger thing before the game even came out because of the EA Access 10-hour trial thing. And a lot of people were really latching on to the poor facial animations and things like that, which I don't know what people expected. I think people expected perfection. And I think with a game of this scope, with the systems they use and how this game is made, to expect like handcrafted animations on the ridiculous amounts of dialogue and characters you have in this game, it's kind of unrealistic, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, and
they're going to have a system in place.
Supporting that, you have to remember that this is they from Mass Effect 3, right? They've transitioned to the Frostbite engine as well, so it's built on an entirely new technology from the ground up. So there's going to be, we're talking about an engine that came from, the Battlefront backgrounds here. That's what it was developed for, and now it's becoming sort of EA's versatile tool. They're using it in FIFA, and now they're using it in Mass Effect. So there's going to be some issues as they try and work on the niggles where it doesn't necessarily work with the games they're trying to build, and they have to extend it. So, yeah, it's kind of like a bit of a reset on that front. But I haven't, other than the standard issues that I know, the anti-aliasing is pretty poor on the Xbox. In fact, I'm not sure they do it most of the time. And you notice that. But it's the same in Battlefront. Everything kind of has this weird, jagged halo around it, or aura around characters and stuff like that. It looks a bit grainy in places, but, it's all par for the course, really. It's not better or worse than any other sort of Frostbite-looking game that I've been playing on the Xbox. The animation, I think, is okay. I've paid a bit of attention to the lip sync at points. I've not noticed it being specifically weird or anything out of order. I have had some problems with. So when you could approach a character in the world and you talk to them, what happens is you hold down the Y button to start the conversation. And the camera sort of tries to move to a position where it has the person you're talking to on the left and yourself on the right, for example. And I've had instances where either the camera's not gone to the right place, or it's not actually aware that the person you're talking to isn't where they should be. So they're either not there, and it's just you talking to nobody, although the audio's there. So I've had a few issues about that. I've also had a problem where one of the characters wasn't in the right place, but they were also a lot further away than they should have been. So the audio was incredibly faint, but they've got captioning, so it wasn't the end of the world. You kind of laugh through these issues a bit when you see them. So I've had a lot of those funny little glitches.
Well, what can I want to give one example, right? So there was this cool bit. There's this cool moment where they introduce the descendant of a major character from Mass Effect 2, right? I don't know if you. It took me a minute to click who he was when he was talking, and this is when one of those things happened, right? So you enter the building, and he's in the far corner, and the dialogue kind of kicked in immediately as you walk through the door. And I just thought I wasn't talking. There was nobody there, and I'm panning the camera around because you have some control over the camera in dialogue. Or at least a lot of the dialogue scenes. And I eventually spot this guy, like, about sort of 6 meters away in the corner of the room. And I'm like, oh, so that's who I'm talking to right now, is it? Okay, cool. And it was, like, such a shame because it was like, oh, you're this kid. You're the son of this character from Mass Effect 2. This is really, really cool. And yet you kind of lost the whole moment of that reveal because I only worked it out from, like, reading in the dialogue that his surname was a certain surname, and I was like, oh right, awesome. But however, it was a bit like, oh, you didn't sell that great to me, did you? That was a bit of a shame. And that's the only time it's really been a kind of really in my face annoying, I guess, an issue like that. I haven't had any of the crashes people talk about, and this is the problem with bugs and glitches, isn't it? Whenever I say to somebody, you know, I was having some discussions with on Twitter with some ex-Bxb guys and Xbox guys, and they're like, oh, they got these glitches. I'm like, well, yeah, talk to me when you've put 40 hours in like I have. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean these haven't happened for certain players. I'm like, yeah, I know. But at the same time, you kind of start to not really give a shit. Like when you start, yeah, you can maybe say, if it's a personal thing, right, you don't like how they animate the faces in this game. Fine. If that, however, is going to really pull you out of the experience, you know, that's a bad thing. However, after the first couple of conversations, you get used to it and you just sort of go, well, that's the style they've gone for. That's the tech they're using. That's the art direction they've gone for. So you just go with it. This is what the creators have chosen for this product and for this game. I personally, from all the early demos and all the videos, I've not had a problem with it. I like how this game looks. For example, the environments are amazing. The planets and the locations you go to are so visually stunning. I've never felt a game that has, and this is one, you know, the impressions people get from the first 2 hours of the game where they're on the first tutorial planet and they're casting as, like, you know, decisions and like, and talking about how it's limited and how the dialogue isn't good and how the story is weak and how the characters aren't compelling me and how the, you know, the people in your team aren't great. I'm like, well, what have you actually experienced of any of that? You haven't actually met most of your team. You have barely had any dialogue. You haven't seen the myriad of interesting worlds that are out there to land on and explore. And, you know, hearing things like, oh, well, you know, the previous, and this is like paraphrasing a quote from one out, you know, the previous Mass Effect games had a real sense of exploration, like Star Trek. This game, however, feels really linear. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I haven't done as much exploring in any game ever compared to what I'm experiencing in Mass Effect. You know, like, you know, this Andromeda has got the best sense of exploration and the best sense of truly feeling like you're cutting a new path and being a pioneer and getting out there and experiencing these worlds and finding these interesting locations and the mysteries and discovering stuff. I really have been totally drawn into this universe and I'm absolutely loving it. But yeah, you can all shout at me about being biased and you'd be probably right. I mean, like, I love this series. I bought the art book, the strategy guide. I've got T-shirts. I've got the tie-in novel.
Come on, we need a money counter. Keep going.
I've already spent 40 quid on microtransactions for the multiplayer.
Oh God!
Why do you think Moore's gone to Liverpool? Because he can now afford it. He can take all Ben's money with him, and he's going to use it to buy some players for the team.
I received a review copy, but I also bought the digital deluxe version of the game, so it's kind of like, you know, yeah.
You are why AAA gaming is bad. Yeah. You are why. It is now your fault.
I can't argue. You want? I'm not going to give an exact amount. You can work it out probably, but I mean, it's like it's not wrong to love a series like this. You know, it's not wrong, is it, to enjoy something to that level?
No,
I mean,
but I think there's a point where it becomes harmful if you're apologizing for things that really should be better. Mass Effect is a top tier franchise, and we
have you've
not Effect 2 being the best game on Xbox 360, right?
Yeah, that's a game of the generation. Yeah,
Mass Effect 2 was awesome.
Yes,
I absolutely loved it. But I'm in the position now where I don't know if I will ever buy this game. And
that's really sad to hear, man. I think it's a really good game. Joel might be able to speak better to
so
from an objective point of view, perhaps, but I think it's excellent. Like,
I think
I'm really enjoying it.
I think I have got a core problem with the game that when if I push it to one side and ignore it, then I can happily move on. And my core frustration is I think I could probably talk about it because it's not actually really a spoiler, but in Mass Effect, the first game, they spent a lot of time building the universe, trying to give everything a backstory. Like if you think about the extranet, how communications work between it, the mass relays, everything. They really spent a lot of effort building a universe which they could then build a trilogy of games in. Now, the first game, had its faults and stuff, but it was, the universe and what they'd set up allowed them to then go on to make the second and the third, which are, really good games. And this one, they've taken some parts of that away and kind of ignored it, and they've broken away from what they kind of tried to hold together, which has kind of frustrated me a little bit.
What are you referring to?
So specifically, right, what we've got is they've sent people to colonize Andromeda, right? Mm-hmm. And all space travel back in the Milky Way was the result of the mass relays. Basically, they'd all put there, and that's how you could travel between all the systems and stuff. Suddenly, we've got these people now in Andromeda who can, at will, just travel to wherever they want within any sort of system within the galaxy. Basically, there are no mass relays to facilitate that speed. But what you find in the story is that the expedition to Andromeda was sent. I'm not sure exactly when, but it seems to be some point probably during Mass Effect 2 or Mass Effect 3 was
between the two.
Was when the expedition was sent. Now, at no point I've seen anything that implied that the ships were capable of faster than light travel at all, other than they depended on the mass relay network to move around, basically. And they seem to have just ignored that solid foundation of the story when they've sent everyone to Andromeda and given everyone freedom of movement. And it's kind of like, whoa, what do how come you've backed away from some of these core principles that you built together? And they don't try and they don't acknowledge it and then try and give me an explanation either. So that kind of niggled at me a bit. But when I ignore it and just focus on this as a kind of like, well, I'm in a different galaxy now, just put that to one side and go with it, I'm actually really enjoying the game.
They do. You're right to a degree, because you can see from the design perspective, they went, well, that's a weird hang up we can just do without, because that's just gonna that's a pain in the butt, isn't it? And they kind of explain it in a very offhand, minimal way, in which they say that the arcs and the Nexus were traveled to Andromeda using a special kind of drive technology. I think it's called like Odyssey drives or something like that, right? And then they say the Tempest has the same drive. Your ship has the same drive. And that's basically them saying this is tech that means they can do what you're talking about without the mass relays. However, they don't really explain where that came from. One of the things with the initiative is that a lot of the tech in the initiative is using alien tech, usually on the sly. Like they've got stuff together from races and stuff like the Geth that they wouldn't been able to do due to like rules and regulations in the Milky Way. So they brought there is this whole thing. I haven't finished the game yet, but there is this whole thing, because another thing people threw up was like, what they've got an AI and it's integrated, and like, what's that all about? But as you play the game, that actually gets addressed quite a bit. The whole use of AI in this game is very much like the Ryder family was one of the reasons they had to leave, was because they broke a bunch of laws to do with the use and development of AI in the Milky Way. And that actually does get addressed and is ongoing. And I feel like the whole construction of the initiative is going to come from a somewhat morally compromised place. And this is why all these hot takes on this game, after a couple of hours of play, do it such disservice, because as you get into this game, it's a slow build. Like the way it's been written is almost treating it like a big thick piece of hard science fiction, a novel. It's very much layers on the characters slowly, brings into these themes and these beats that develop as the 40, 50, 60 hours of the game, go along. And it's delivered to you quite slowly. So whereas the game starts off a little bit flippant and a little bit like, oh, your character's a bit like, oh, don't worry about it, we'll work it out, it's gonna be fine, woo, explorers, and everything feels a bit like easy peasy, happy days kind of crew. They do layer on the characterization and start to bring in darker edges and revelations to the universe as it goes along. And where I'm getting to now, more of that is starting to surface all the time. And I think it's it's a game that it's like, yeah, if I reviewed it after 10 hours, I didn't have the most mind-blowing opening experience with this game. You can't deny it starts slowly. This is a fact, especially as it's like a good 6-8 hours of tutorial before you even get given the freedom to explore the galaxy. But when you do start to really get out there and you start to pick apart these mysteries and start to really delve into the universe, a lot of those concerns and a lot of those reservations do go away. And that's all I can say to people. That Richard, like, you're saying you don't. I mean, I'm not sure what it is exactly that's holding you back from maybe purchasing this game. I think the writing in any big game like this, it's never going to be. And people have rose-tinted goggles up to the wazoo on this. It's not perfect throughout Mass Effect, any of the Mass Effect games. There are spots where that character might say or do something, and you kind of go, well, okay, that wasn't the best. But the vast majority of it is very good, and that carries the rest of it. I think the characterization, for example, of your squad mates are brilliant. I really like your squad mates. But again, if you were just taking those impressions from really early on, they would seem like ciphers. They do seem quite simple and kind of cookie cutter. But once you get to know them and once you delve in, they get a lot better. And this is why I'm reading so much of this criticism. I'm like, well, you've only played 10 hours of this. And it's really fucking obvious that you've only played 10 hours of this. And I understand the pressures of a lot of these people's jobs, but they need to play.
I don't remember, having played through every Mass Effect, I don't remember any of them being boring for 10 hours.
It's not boring. It just starts slowly. The combat, for example, is really, really good. It's easily the best sort of mobility and action that the Mass Effect series has ever had. Having that jump jet and the dash abilities feels fantastic. Another thing you don't really get to play around with early on are these profiles, which you basically can spec in any direction for your character. So there are no more restrictions by class type in Mass Effect Andromeda. So you can spec into all the biotics, techs, and combat powers from the offset. And that means you can basically create your own classes. And then these classes, or profiles as they call them in the game, give you different bonuses depending on where you're specking in. So if you're specking into like combat and tech, you can pick a profile that sort of helps that sort of selection. And you can then change them on the fly. So I could go into a combat experience and I could be specking like fully into biotic. I'm a vanguard charge. I'm using pull and throw. And then I could be like, well, those sort of enemies that are weak to that have now left. And I've got this type of enemy. I'm going to switch to my combat profile, which is all about getting out my sniper rifle, my assault rifle, and just doing a lot of damage. And combat feels, I think, really, really, really right up there with the best combat in a third-person shooter. Like, really, really good fun to play. And, mix that with the environment designs being great and the combat encounters being well thought out with enough variety in the enemies. It feels fantastic.
Are the environments inconsistent?
And Richard, the first 10 hours of Mass Effect are boring as fuck, the first one. Sorry, until you get off the Citadel, that game is dull. And I think you need to go back and play that again. And this is definitely the closest successor. This is a successor to the original Mass Effect more than it is a successor to 2 or 3.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
Do you hear what you're saying? That's exactly why I don't want to play it, because it's more like the first one then. So it's boring for 10 hours. It looks kind of crappy.
It doesn't look crappy. It looks amazing. I mean, this game looks stunning. What you're talking about is like the visual, the animations of literally the lip syncing is what you've got an issue with, right?
But yeah,
that's what you can mean. Have you played Horizon Zero Dawn? Because the lip sync in that is fucking terrible.
No,
like half the time, that game again looks gorgeous, but why aren't people jumping on that because the lip syncing is bad? That's what I don't. I think there's a weird mentality around this game.
And Horizon Zero Dawn is not about the same thing that Mass Effect is about. If you went to play Uncharted 4 and all of a sudden people's eyes were rolling into the back of their fucking heads, would you think, oh no, it's really brilliant though, even though the
no, because that kind of those cinematics is all the Uncharted 4 has for it, going for it really. I mean,
it's all about the characterization though, and the action in between is kind of a stopgap in between the bits that are important in Uncharted. And it's the same for Mass Effect.
No, I don't think it is at all. Because
how about this point though? Yes. So
Richard's got a good point that in Mass Effect you do spend a lot of time looking at characters lip syncing, right? I'm sure they haven't moved the game so radically away from its roots that you're not doing a lot of chatting and a lot of talking to people and getting side quests and chatting and persuasion and all that shit. So if the lip syncing's bad, it's not the same as the lip syncing being bad in Horizon Zero Dawn.
You do you spend a lot of time. You do. You spend a lot of time chatting in Horizon Zero Dawn as well.
There's probably 40 hours to the campaign in Mass Effect. How many of those hours are spent looking directly at the character's face while they talk?
It's not as much as you think. There's a lot more combat and a lot more because this whole game is about exploration. So the world you go to now in Andromeda, instead of the kind of quite narrow corridors you had in like Mass Effect 3, they are these big open environments, or at least on the major worlds, of which I think there are 5 or 6. And it's more like if you play Dragon Age Inquisition, so these big open areas that you get around using the all-terrain vehicle. So a lot of the game is actually about exploring and combat encounters now. They've definitely lent heavily into that, a lot more heavily than they did in the previous games, which makes you feel like you've got much more direct involvement in what's going on around you. And it actually gives you a real sense of place.
I'm interested in it, Ben, because the franchise does have that history of not being about that. You know, if that's good and you like that, fine. But from someone who appreciated the other things that Mass Effect excelled in, and that was the pinnacle in Mass Effect 2, which was about acquiring your squad, learning your squad's backstories, caring about them, saving them.
That's all there. That's all there in the new one.
Mass Effect is about. It's not about the shooty stuff. So
why? I don't understand though. Why can't the shooty stuff be good though? Why can't that also be what Mass Effect is about?
It can be good. That's fine if it's good, but it seems like they've dropped the ball on what I care about.
But they haven't. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They haven't.
From the videos that I've seen, they have.
Yeah, but all you have seen are people trying to meme bait. And I could cut that from any video game you could go in that has, like, look at all the dialogue in Fallout 4 and how so much shit that was. Like, look at, like, yeah, I could cut together a 5-minute video of bad Horizon dialogue and lip syncing. You know, it would be hard to do it.
Because after Fallout 3, I refused to play another one. And it feels like they've Bethesda'd the fuck out of Mass Effect now.
It's a bit.
Yeah, in some senses, like on the glitches front, I'm kind of like, I'm not sure what side I'm on. Basically, there are two fights. When a company's making a AAA game, right, and they've got access to those cash and that much resources to do it, they should be putting out a very polished piece of work. But then on the other side, companies like Bethesda have proven that you don't actually need to do it for people to lap it up and get on with it. So I'm not sure which side of the fence I sit on. You know, it's difficult because in one sense, I don't want to see the game with all these issues, but on the other side, I do want to see the game at some point in time, in reasonable time frame, I guess.
I just think, Richard, it's a bit. This is the problem I'm talking about. This is the same thing that you're kind of saying. You want an excuse not to have to buy another game right now in a time period full of good games.
No, mate,
and this is the mentality, and this is the problem that it's the Netflix thing. Same thing happened with, like, for example, Iron Fist right now on Netflix. It's easier for everybody to hate something from the offset instead of investing time and actually realizing something's good when you've already got so many things on your plate.
Okay, if we're going to bring... No, see, I haven't played Mass Effect Andromeda. I've watched all of Iron Fist, though. And that is...
I'm about halfway through it.
It's fine. Like, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed looking at how shit it was, though, is the main thing I enjoyed. It is not good.
But I mean, it's not as good as the other Marvel Netflix shows. But it's I still think it's better than, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. or fucking, you know, all the CW DC shows. Right. I still think it's of a higher quality than that. So I mean, it's like, I just think it's like people want to rubbish stuff. People enjoy the idea that that's what Horizon has got, like, this past because it's the first open world game Guerrilla have ever done. We want it to succeed. Oh, it's a new IP. We want it to succeed. Mass Effect 4, and it's just like, oh well, no, that will never be as good as Mass Effect 2 was. Or 3. Oh, hold on, we all rubbish Mass Effect 3 because of its ending, but let's pretend that didn't happen. Let's retcon that whole load of negativity and now make this seem like way worse than that ever was after playing it for 8 hours or something. You know,
that probably is a thing. It's not a thing for me. I want Mass Effect to be good.
I honestly don't see why you wouldn't like it, mate. Honestly, like, a few animations aside, which you'll soon forget about and soon completely ignore. The writing is good, the characters are good, the action is good, the exploration sense is good. It's a lot of fun to actually just play. Honestly, the series has never looked better. The environments are amazing. The ship you fly around is amazing. Your crew are really fun to interact with and engaging. And as the game progresses, it really reels you in. I mean, you're criticizing a game.
I've seen anything that looks amazing. It all looks pretty drab. Honestly.
Because the internet has decided to hate this game, Richard.
What do you mean?
Therefore, it starts to snowball. Therefore, outlet after outlet are just going to parrot the same thing because that is what is getting the hits on the websites.
Everyone's deliberately showing the worst stuff.
I think a lot of the loudest voices are deliberately, yes.
to be fair, what could we show you from Mass Effect 2 that's amazing? I mean, Mass Effect is
in 5
fundamentally
minutes. Yeah,
a
in 5
game
minutes,
that
like,
looks
what do you
bad
do?
in videos. Like,
Yeah.
It's
the
about...
animations, the mobility, the way that I mean, all of the Mass Effect games have never looked great. It's about the sum of the parts. It's about when it all comes together after 50 hours and you look back, you're blown away by that experience. It's not...
You said it. The environments look great, though.
They do, yeah. I mean, I mean, if you want me to take some fucking screenshots and send them to you, Richard, I will.
There is actually, I was going to highlight a point about how, there are certain aspects of as you're going around the galaxy. So it's on the star map specifically, exploring the different subsystems and stuff, right? It frustrates me because the reason they've got when you want to go to a planet, it basically, if you're in a system and you're at one planet and you want to go to another, it does this huge cinematic where it sort of zooms out of the planet and then flies you across like the actual system. And you can see all the other systems in the background, black holes and this stuff. And it looks amazing. And I'm pretty sure if you ran it on a PC at 4K, it looks fantastic. And they know it looks amazing because every bloody planet transition, they make you watch this 20-second cinematic of like showing off the engine tech and stuff. So it starts off as, wow, this is really beautiful, and then after it wears on you after a while. Once you just quickly explore systems, you're like, just hurry up. Like
I actually I like that. I mean, I like that because it gives you a sense of place and it makes you feel like you're in Star Trek. And it actually reminded me a lot of the view from the shadow ships in Babylon 5. And I really dug the whole aesthetic choice of it. I really did. And I was expecting to find it really frustrating, but I've been playing it for 40 hours single player now. And
I like unskippable cutscenes.
It's 10 seconds long. It's 10 seconds long.
It's probably a loading hide.
And it's
probably hiding a load. I am starting to get the impression Mass Effect Andromeda could break into your house and piss in your face, and you'd be like, "That's good though, because I was thirsty." Right?
Well, look. Let me tell you this, guys. I'm thinking of scores and what I'm going to do with the review. I'm not going to give it 5 stars. I can tell you that much, right? Don't worry. I mean, that's not happening. I will, because what it does, I think it does really well, but it's not doing anything new, really. It's nothing like totally revelatory. It's a lot like Mass Effect 3 crossed with Dragon Age Inquisition, right? So you
10 stars.
You see, if I had said all this though, and I hadn't prefaced it with I bought this, I bought that, I bought this, I bought that, what would you be saying to me then? I mean, you wouldn't be.
I think by now we'd be suspecting. To be honest.
You see, if you do go out onto the internet and look, there is a lot of positive response to this game. There are sites with the 8 out of 10s, 4 out of 5s, that sort of stuff. The problem is, however, so much of it has been shouted down by people jumping on this negative bandwagon. I do almost feel like I have to try in my small way to redress that balance, and that's why I'm on here doing that. The review itself will come from a more objective, balanced perspective, but I just have this vibe right now on the internet, because I follow a few communities and I'm in, on their social channels and stuff like that. It did feel like this was kind of on the hit list. This was never going to work for most people, that they just decided way in advance when those first trailers came out from that moment forward, and then when that EA trial came out, we were going to hate this game based on the limited amount of demo time we're going to get with it. And that, I'll be interested to see what the sales numbers are. I suspect they'll still be strong regardless. But I do think it's had a really unfair negative reaction. And Joel, as somebody more unbiased, we haven't even talked about the multiplayer, by the way, which is excellent. Do you see where I'm coming from, mate? I mean,
so for me, it's basically a souped-up version of Mass Effect 1. I think... I don't see. The story's still there, the character building's still there, the conversation arcs are massive. You can stand around talking to people for hours. If you want to chat to everyone, most people have got something to say. It's all there. It does seem to be there is a side of a wall. Now, there are little issues with the camera positioning. This time they've tried to do it. I think it's just the way they've tried to implement it in engine in the game. Basically, it's like they've created these bugs for themselves. But the exploration is much better than Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3 really watered down the exploration aspect of it, basically to sort of tiny little linear levels, basically, whereas this has opened it right back up again. Think of like the nearest thing I could relate it to, it's kind of reminds me a bit of Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Like, it's just a huge environment. You land on this planet and you can walk around, and there's like little pockets of, you can't go anywhere without being distracted, because you'll be driving along and oh, there's a bloody ancient monument, I'll go and have a look at that. Or, oh, there's a landing ship that's come in, I'll go kill the people who have come off it and stuff. There's so much kind of going on. Now, it is a little cluttered, but I guess that, you know, there, in some senses, you couldn't really make a level planet scale because no one would ever be able to drive around and get around the whole thing. But yeah, I think it's a testament to, and I think that's one of the good things about switching to the Frostbite thing of doing stuff. Like, when you actually get to a kind of, you can imagine how each level builds up to a sort of like, well, you're going to do an attack on this kind of thing. So you get to that, and rather than sort of having a loading section, it just all flows from the same environment. There aren't any sub-loading bits. You just flow into, like, you go up these huge towers on the top of mountains, and it just keeps flowing and flowing, and you're like, wow, this is really impressive. Like, I'm almost expecting to see a door, and when I hit the door, it's just like, oh, loading, black screen, wait, and then you go into this sort of linear level, but it doesn't. It's always really open. So yeah, I think they've definitely taken it forward, and I think if you enjoyed the previous games, you'd certainly enjoy it. There are some like small bugs and glitches. I haven't come across anything game breaking. Actually, sorry, there's one game breaking annoying thing that happens to me, and that's if when you're on the main menu, you have to sit and wait there for it to connect to EA's servers before you select any of the options, because if you do, it'll load the game and then some features are disabled, and you have to return to the main menu for it to connect until you can. It doesn't just connect in the background no matter what the game's doing. That annoyed me.
No, that's fair. Some of the online stuff, and it kept dropping. I was playing it yesterday, and it kept dropping the connection. But to be fair to EA, Xbox Live is having all kinds of shit fit the last week or so. They having all kinds of technical problems at the back end. It was out for basically a whole day at one point, wasn't it? So it could be related to that. So I don't know about that. But yeah, there are problems. There are definitely technical problems. This game was pushed out. This game had to make the end of the quarter/financial year. That's why it's come out now. That's why it's come out in the weird middle of March bit, and that much is clear. I mean, like they could have done with a few more months of polish, you know, and tidied up a few things.
That's the disappointing thing, Ben. You know, because when they first started talking about this in earnest, and they were pushing it alongside PS4 Pro, and it was supposed to be sort of the vanguard of 4K gaming. Now, when it finally comes out, it feels like there's all these things that you've just got to tolerate rather than it be this top tier thing, you know. And it's just disappointing. I probably will get it eventually when they fix things, but technical issues, they kind of are a problem when you've sold it as this sort of next level technical achievement, and it doesn't really work properly.
See, I don't remember that as like a push for him, but I'll take your word for it.
It was the one game they showed with the PS4 Pro reveal.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh no, you're right. That was the first time we saw gameplay, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was in the vault. It was in one of the vaults. Yeah. No, I do remember that now. Yeah. No, fair play. And it does look. I mean, like on the Xbox One S with HDR enabled stuff, it looks amazing from the videos and stuff I've seen. Sadly, I don't have that capability, and I know there are improvements on the Pro and stuff like that as well. I'd look forward to seeing what the Scorpio does with it, and if that
is HDR enabled, is it?
Yes.
I didn't notice that. Oh, I should play it downstairs, not upstairs. Sorry, the only other game I've got that's HDR is Gears of War 4, which is so grey and brown anyway. You can't ever you just sit there and it's like, I really can't tell the difference between.
There's I would love to see it with HDR, but there's this environment, the Hoth level as they call it, so the ice planet, where that's the
one I'm currently just finished, I believe.
Once you sort out the monoliths and fix him, it does this thing to the environment where it basically turns the sky into like a permanent aurora borealis, northern lights. I'd imagine that looks amazing in HDR, so you should probably check that out.
I will play that downstairs tonight rather than in my cave upstairs.
But yeah, there is so much in that game. Like you're talking about, like all these different things to do with the different ancient civilizations, the new alien races. There's all the politics and stuff you enjoy in there. I could go on and on and on and on and on. But I feel like we're at an hour in now. We should probably talk about some other games.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I wanted to make just to raise a broader concern, which is that
there's like
Just finish on
These sorts of games are definitely like, one of the things I enjoy in games. What they can only really be described as the talk 'em ups that have occasional breaks for exploration / combat. The Elder Scrolls games, the Fallout games, the Mass Effect games. They're all of a kind of genre. I mean, I suppose it's Western RPG, you want to call it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I really love these sorts of games, and this is the second one now that's come out, and there's been a big sort of tantrum from the gaming press or the gaming world about minor glitches, minor graphical problems.
Yeah,
these games have always had minor graphical problems. Yep. Fallout 3 is a mess of minor C-class bugs. Fallout New Vegas, my favorite game probably ever, is a mess of minor C-class bugs. I've always accepted that that's just something you have to tolerate. If we start to see this sort of backlash from every new kind of large-scale Western RPG, people are going to stop making them, or making them is going to get to be so ruinously expensive that they can never make a profit. Like, if you're making 80 hours of gameplay, you're going to see some hands go through some walls. That's just a fact. There's nothing you can do about that. So it does slightly concern me.
I think the problem is because people, they want all their games to look like Uncharted 4 now.
Yeah.
And it's like when a game, or Horizon when they're not talking. And when you set that bar that high, and it's one of the biggest backlash towards Zelda as well, wasn't it? It's like, oh man, it's not as pretty as Horizon. Why doesn't it look great? What's this not next gen? Is it blah blah blah? And then you can talk about the gameplay and how amazing it is for hours, like Richard did last time. So it's kind of like
Zelda works. I mean, I don't know if that's because it's less hard to develop because it's not so technically, complicated.
Well,
I bet I could find bugs. I bet there are videos of bugs in Zelda, Richard. I bet you. Because it's an open world game, isn't it? I mean, there's always bugs. There's always bugs in games like this.
Haven't found one.
Have you actually looked? Have you? Oh, okay, fair dues.
I've been playing for 70 plus hours.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This is the same defense I could use for Mass Effect. I haven't experienced these bugs. However, there are plenty of videos showing that these bugs exist, So it's kind of like...
And also you have a bit.
Definitely
I talked about one of the bugs, didn't I?
Yeah.
I did talk about that. So. But what I'm saying is that all of these games will have some issues. It's just the nature, like Adam said, of these open world RPG games, that we love, that everybody loves. So it brings up a very good point and a really good concern. I think, it'd be a real shame to see this genre go away. It's like, why spend all this money on development costs when we could do a linear 12-hour something and put that out in the universe instead? And it's going to be polished and it's going to
especially now developers are getting much better at creating the sort of pretense of RPG elements. Like a lot of the kind of open world games ain't particularly open nowadays. They're pretty linear, They're like there's a linear path with occasional pissing about sections. Like that's different to what Fallout New Vegas gave you, where you genuinely could just wander off for 30 hours and fuck the main quest line off.
So I think that will leave us. I mean, I will have a full review up within the week coming up for Mass Effect, and I imagine we'll probably briefly at least touch upon it next time when maybe Joel's finished it. Maybe when we finish the game stuff, we'll talk about it in the next episode and just see where we end up. Maybe do a few spoilers at the end of the episode or something like that if we feel like it. However, I know I desperately need to talk to Richard about the hot, new, exciting, unique property he has been playing in the last 2 weeks. That is Lego Worlds. That's right. He said he'd never come back. He said he'd never do a review of a Lego game again. Then I twisted his arm. I broke one of his kneecaps, and then he did the review. Lego Worlds. Well, at least he said he will at some point in the next few days, hopefully.
I'm gonna write it tomorrow, but I can tell you about it. I feel a little bit guilty about Lego because I've slagged.
You like it, don't you, Richards?
I can't say that I like it, but
you can. Go on.
It does all of the things that I've criticized Lego games for not doing for a best part of a decade, and that is let you build stuff. Lego Worlds is about building stuff. Doesn't have any major motion picture franchise attached to it with pointless characters that appear in Lego form for the sake of being cute or appealing on some facile level. This is just about Lego, right? And it isn't even about hitting stuff and smashing it up for studs, although you can do that, which is what every other Lego game has been about. Lego Worlds is actually about playing with proper Lego. And it feels like someone's looked at Minecraft and thought, if this was really made out of Lego, because let's face it, that's where Minecraft got the idea from. If this was made out of Lego, how would we do it? And the answer is you start out in a very small Lego world. If you think back to when Lego first started and you could buy, before they did like full proper sets, you'd buy boards, wouldn't you? You'd have like a little board, say 12 centimeters by 12 centimeters or whatever, 20 centimeters. And it would maybe have a lunar landscape on it. You get grey ones, you get green ones for fields. And you get something in game that's a bit like that. So it's just a very small square of Lego space, randomly generated with hills, divots, canyons, whatever, if you can call it a canyon, because it's quite a small area. And that's populated by themed Lego toys. So it might be a sort of pirate environment or cavemen and volcanoes, whatever. But it's all kind of randomly generated and it feels kind of like populous in a way, the way that everything's sort of built in this random terrain that's deformable. And I think finally they've done something with Lego that I can engage with. This is what Lego is about. Sadly, it still controls exactly like all the other Lego games. So it's impossibly difficult to sort of manipulate anything with any degree of accuracy. The idea is that you'll wander around these islands and scan in each of the items so that you can then reuse it in your own worlds. But it's really hard to aim at anything. You sort of clip into the environment as you always do in Lego games. You can't really get your footing. You might be sort of balanced on one toe on the edge of a hill while the rest of you floats, or you might fall into it or just slide down the hill, or, you know, it's really difficult to know how you're going to interact with the environment. The cameras are terrible as well. So it really doesn't have that immediate accessibility that Minecraft has, where you know how everything works. Everything is sort of laid out at the same size in Minecraft. So it feels as if you can interact with that world without really thinking about it. Lego Worlds is all about second guessing whether you're going to be able to balance on something, whether you can climb something, whether you can aim at something. And it's just really, really fiddly. And it's a shame because on paper, it seems to offer what I wanted it to do. So you scan all these items in, you can use them all to build stuff. You've got terrain deformation tools, so you can flatten the landscape, put hills on it. You can even go down to the detail of laying individual bricks, and you can choose individual types of Lego brick that are authentic to the real bricks that you can buy in shops. And that sounds great, except it's just far too fiddly to actually practically play.
So it's in the building stuff. It's like top down isometric or what? Like I'm trying to imagine how do you actually go about building stuff? Because you mentioned the control scheme is like the previous.
It's like a regular Lego game, yeah. So you've got your on-screen avatar, but it's
so you have a little dude you're controlling.
Yeah. You're just a regular Lego dude.
Sorry, because you said the word populous, and then I was triggered, and I just went back to a happy place.
Yeah, sorry.
Now you've ruined it. You've ruined it.
Yeah, that would probably be a better way of doing it. But yeah, you've got this little regular Lego avatar, and he or she wanders around. You can customize it with different bits, and you can find different bits as well. When you encounter other Lego characters in the game, you can scan them and use them as your avatar if you want. So you've got quite a lot of freedom to customize.
You can't just beat them up and steal their legs.
No, sadly not.
That's disappointing.
I can see Adam's Lego world now. Torsos were screaming, "Some my legs! Some my legs!" Just lots of that. That would be a horrific place. Is that what you did as a kid, Adam? Did you just take all their legs?
That is the reality of how you make your Lego figure that you want, right? You tear two of them in half, and then you build a new Frankenstein union of the two.
That's very disturbing.
That's how Lego works.
Yeah, Usually with Princess Leia's torso for comedy value.
Can you? I mean, what would take me back to? I think the halcyon days of Lego for me were the pirate ships. I remember I had like 3 or 4 of the awesome Lego pirate ships when I was a kid. Yeah. Can you do stuff like that? I mean, like what are we talking about?
Yeah, pirates are in there very early on. That's one of the first things it throws at you. And the way that the game works, it eases you in with these small worlds and gives them a theme. So one of the first ones would be pirates, and you'll encounter a couple of different pirate characters, although they're not really characters, they're just Lego figures within this small world, and they'll ask you to carry out a simple quest. Might just be to flatten the landscape or scan in a particular item. It's all really kind of a tutorial for how the game works and teaching you how to explore the far too complicated menus that this game has. Once you've completed a quest for a character, they'll give you a gold brick. And when you've got enough gold bricks, that will allow you to escape from that world and find another one using the gold bricks as fuel for your spacecraft. So it keeps things fresh. It doesn't leave you languishing on any world for very long. It gives you a chance to sort of mix it up and move on to the next one. Probably bothers you a bit too much to leave when it knows that you've done everything that you can do. It won't shut up about telling you to go.
Get out. You've had your time.
Yeah, it literally will just carry on telling you. You should probably go to your ship now. You should probably go to your ship now. And that gets annoying. But it tells you who this game is for. It's for kids who need to be told.
Is it for kids who can't afford lots of physical Lego sets?
I don't know if it's about kids that can't afford it, but it's perhaps a convenient way to try lots of different types of Lego without having to spend lots of money on all of it.
I mentioned that because I know it's a budget release. It's not like a normal Traveller's Tales one.
I think it's like 30 quid.
I think it might be less than that, actually. I've seen it for sub 20 in places, but I mean that might be just places selling it cheap. But I'm not sure exactly how much it is.
Retail price is 30 quid, but you're probably a bit less.
Okay, that is.
How does the multiplayer work? You mentioned that obviously you can visit other people's worlds, but can you have, like in Minecraft, where you have a server, multiple people in there building and vandalizing each other's stuff?
There's cooperative play on screen, so you can help each other out in a world. I haven't visited another person's world. That's not what I meant when I said you can visit other worlds. You can, you might be able to do that. I haven't got to that point yet, but it seems so far everything I've tried is randomly generated. And it will just give you a series of letters on the screen to say what the code is to regenerate that world, I believe. So you could probably share worlds that way. But I haven't got as far yet as building my own world per se, because it takes quite a lot of progress to get to that point. It puts you through a lot of predetermined, not predetermined worlds because they are randomly generated, but the content within those worlds is prescribed, I believe. And there's quite a lot of that to get through first.
Well, I mean, it sounds like it's the Lego game you've enjoyed the most in quite a while.
It's the one that has the right idea about what it should be doing. It just doesn't do it very well.
So maybe if they can iterate upon it a bit more and come up with a better control scheme and stuff, it would be close to what you think a Lego game should be.
Yeah,
personally.
There's bits where a character might have a house with a missing wall, and you can build that wall brick by brick, and that feels cool. And you can like choose what color the bricks are. You could repaint them if you want to. There's quite a lot of freedom there to do anything that you would want to do with Lego. Really, it's just quite.
Oh, you're look at this. You're just a simple man. You like to build things with your hands, Richard. If you're not fixing toilets, you want to build a wall.
Mate, this is
sound like Donald Trump.
This is
I'm gonna build a wall.
Not like Donald Trump.
No.
Kind of at the heart of my dislike of Lego is that I like the toy itself, and it hurts me to see them churn out fucking Indiana Jones tower, whatever they put in. It's just, they're rubbish, aren't they, normally?
Well, I would have happily reviewed Lego Worlds if I wasn't reviewing Mass Effect, Richard, just so you know. I mean, I really liked the last Lego game. Just saying.
Are you like the guy from the Lego movie with the Craggle? Do you have to glue it all together?
Yeah,
and,
Richard
when
does
you
sound
get
like
a
somebody
set
who would glue it together.
And, you know, has to stay within that one form.
No,
he's shaking his head.
Instructions. Look, Lego comes with instructions. I follow the instructions and I build it.
Well, that doesn't sound very pure. Now, I thought proper Lego fans, you just impro, baby. You're just like creating, like freestyle. Like, what are you doing with instructions, Richard? What are you doing?
You freestyle once you've built it properly, don't you?
And documented it with many, many photographs.
Uh,
What are you talking? The one
You
thing,
unlock freestyle mode, obviously.
Now,
exactly, yeah.
as a typical older brother, my best memory with Lego was smashing up all my brother's ones.
Ooh,
Now, I mean, that's he used to have these intricate Lego train sets and pirate ship. I just used to like destroying them, and I guess that's an older brother thing or being a dick thing, I suppose. Would be more
it's
accurate.
a dick thing. I think.
But yeah, that was my fondest memory, seeing his little face in tears. But you know, that
And I'm
says a
like,
lot about me. So I know. Well, I also got tiny little hands. So I think that's enough about Lego. Adam, I did you a disservice though, sir, because I completely, after teasing the Gamergate bit, I forgot to actually mention what happened. I dangled it. I know you were so eager to find out another exciting way of abusing women, and I'm like, well, here we go. This is what he did. So basically,
I like to know what they've been up to.
Yeah, that's fair. You got to keep in touch because you know you're close with those guys. After This Is the Police,
They're my fans.
They're your peeps. So basically, what happened there was a woman who worked on Mass Effect in the animation department.
A woman working on games in this day and age.
And she's quite attractive and cosplayed as well. So danger. So she put on her Twitter that she was, I think incorrectly put like that, she was lead animator or something like whatever. Even though, you know, everybody knows with half a brain cells knows that the team of animators would be fucking massive on a game like this. But anyway, she put this down, and obviously the trial happened and the animations were unbelievably appalling. So they just decided to destroy her online.
Oh, good.
You know, she's a whore that sucked cock to get the job because she had no real talent, and she just liked to dress up in silly costumes and give blowjobs. And that's, you know, typical Gamergate shit. That just makes you wish that, you know, video games didn't exist.
Yeah.
Basically.
You know what will definitely improve the animations in Mass Effect Andromeda is death and rape threats. Just constant death and rape threats. Yeah, that's how she'll learn to do it better next time.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
So it's just the wonderful world we now live in, where people organize hate campaigns against random women because just because they're women.
Like a game she worked on 1% of. Oh,
it's just grim. But I thought I should just clarify, as you know, I dangled that out there and then didn't bring it up.
I'm sorry for her, really, because what's she going to do now? Like, she's going to go into a meeting with her boss, who's going to tell her off for the bad animations, which she did because she spent too much time giving blowjobs.
Well, you know, she'll have to go a bit
out of that bad meeting with her boss by giving him a blowjob. I mean,
I know, it's a vicious cycle.
Can't win.
It's a vicious cycle. Her lips must be mighty chapped.
I take it this is what happens with women in video games employment. I don't know.
I mean, it's what happens with everyone in video games employment, to be honest. You know, we're all pro-tier cocksuckers. Like, it's a competitive market. Like, how do you think you get the job?
Very competitive market. Yeah, no doubt about that. Okay, and I'm gonna. Joel, do goblins give a lot of blowjobs?
Well, possibly. I'm not sure. I've never had one from a goblin myself.
They've got quite sharp teeth. I think.
I would say if a goblin did give a good blowjob, you'd probably say he was really good at goblin.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
very good.
Goblin the Noblin. Yeah. Okay. So Styx. This is quite a big surprise for me, because you just like, do you want a kind of AAA game to review? I was like, yeah, I'm off work, why not? And yeah, again, never looked at the previous Styx games, coming into this completely fresh. So I was like, oh, what is it? And it turned out to be a stealth game, and it builds up quite nicely. Actually, the introduction's quite short. It basically introduces you to almost your entire tool set, which you have from the off, which is really good. You can just subtly upgrade it using the RPG elements to unlock some slightly additional features. So you start with darts, for example, but you can unlock poison darts and you can kind of up them that way. But you basically have your whole tool set available. And And then the game sets you free. Now I wouldn't. The story is all about this kind of material called amber, which your goblin Styx is addicted to, and it's what gives him, it's his fuel for his special powers. So his special powers are, firstly, he can go invisible, which is obviously quite handy for a stealth game, but you can only go invisible for a limited amount of time. It drains your stealth, drains your amber, but meter very quickly, and you have to drink more amber to refuel. But the most interesting thing he can do is he can spit out a clone, basically. He basically vomits up a clone of himself, and you can then take control of this clone, and you can use this clone, much like your main character, just with certain limited abilities he can't fight, for example, to actually play as a second tool, as a tool to help you advance in the game. So you can use them for distractions, you can use them to lure guards out. So if you put your clone out in front of a set of guards and then ask him to run away, the guards will chase him, but it doesn't count as a penalty for being spotted, for example. So your clones come like free of penalty. If the clone gets killed, it doesn't matter to you. You just can create another one, and it kind of opens up a very interesting way to play a stealth game. It's quite an interesting concept. And then what I really liked about it was the levels. So you have your toolkit for stealth, and then the way the levels are designed are really good. It's every room and building, the levels are very vertical, so you get buildings that are like 3-4 stories tall, or vast open spaces, like with 5 or 6 stories of ropes going between the different floors and stuff. There's so many ways that you can approach these things. Combat isn't a very good way to play the game, because you only have a knife and you can only kill unarmored people, and it takes quite a while to kill them, even like stealthily, to do like muffled kills. And you can't fight heavily armored people. You can't even stab them. You have to run away. So combat's kind of out of the question most of the time. And so you're forced to be stealthy. But the way you want to sneak past people, or lure them into traps, you can build acid traps, for example, that you lay down, that as soon as a guard steps on it, just goes disintegrates into nothing. It's really quite cool. I really enjoyed basically having so much freedom in every situation at every moment in the game as to what I wanted to do next. Like, you'd go in one room and like, well, I'll just cut the chandelier down, and whilst they're all looking at it, then I'll sneak on by, and then and then I'm like, actually, no, I'll just create a clone, and then I'll make them stand under the chandelier, and then I'll cut it down so it kills them all, or I'll lay some traps. At all times you have access to all of that toolkit. It wasn't like, when you play Bioshock and you've got these cool plasmids, basically, and you've got the fire one, and you're like, yes, I'll go, I want to fire stuff. But there are only certain scenarios you can use it. You have to wait until you see these oil patches on the floor, and it's kind of like the developer was very specific then about what they want you to do at that point. Whereas, this is just doesn't seem so limiting. You can do literally, your approaches, the options. There's always a way to sneak around. You can either climb around the building and do it, pro stealth. You can lure the guards away. You can sit and watch the guards, like see how their patrol routes are. Then you can poison the food or water if you see one of them regularly goes to get something to eat and things. So you can slowly chip away at them like that without being seen. And then it's all kind of wrapped up with sort of a nice challenge mode for each level, where there are 4 challenges principally for each level, which is complete it without being seen, complete it under a certain time, complete it without killing anybody, and collect there are hidden tokens which are off the beaten track, basically collect them all and stuff. So there's lots to go back and replay, and it's quite fun. That was the good part of it, really. Story I didn't really think much of, and Styx, the character himself, I said in the review, he's very Marmite. I think people will either like him or hate him. I didn't really like him much myself. His personality is a bit not to my taste, really. But other than that, the gameplay was really good. So I quite enjoyed it.
Have you played Hitman? It seems like it covers a lot of the same ground.
Yeah, it sounds similar aspects to Hitman, and Thief was the other obviously main comparison, main thing I'm going for, with a bit of kind of like Assassin's Creed style climbing and things that you can do. So there are a lot of ways that you can climb up the side of buildings, hang off ledges, to get yourself about without being seen. So it kind of combines those kind of aspects. But it definitely got elements of Hitman in there as well.
Sounds pretty decent, to be honest. If you like your stealth ups, I'm just notoriously wary of them because my patience is not great when it comes to games like that. I just want to kill everything.
Yeah, it's good fun. There are certain problems with it, like the climbing whilst you're trying to climb around stuff, it was like when you do it in Assassin's Creed, it feels very fluid moving around the side of a building or trying to get over obstacles and stuff. This was very clunky, quite often resulting in you dying or just not grabbing onto a ledge for some unknown reason. So that got a bit of a frustration.
You've been playing a lot of games recently where grabbing onto a ledge cannot work for some unknown reason, because I mentioned Mass Effect. That does happen occasionally.
Yeah, I know, but when it's such a key part of the game, they put the climbing. Sometimes you're wary of its clunkiness. So what you either do is every time you make it successfully to the next sort of stop point as you're climbing up a ledge, a building or something, you're saving, or you just avoid it entirely and just take a different approach, which is what the game gives you the freedom to try and do. So. Yeah, it was good.
It sounds good. It does sound good. And this was another one of those reviews, but there was 2 reviews actually this week that went up. Yours and Steven's review of, I forget what game it was, but I was going to...
Toby.
Yeah, both of those reviews, Toby the Secret Mind, well remembered, thanks man. Both of those reviews, I read them, and I'm like, ooh, these almost read like 4s. Like, both of them. And I was like, should I get into it? But they weren't like so obviously a 4 that I wanted to sort of like, chase you guys about it, but like, I don't know, just trust on their decisions on that one. But yeah, you sound really positive. You actually sound even more positive now than maybe you did even in your review of Styx.
Yeah, well, it is. But the thing is, it's just a good game. I wouldn't say it's a great game, and then which is what so 3 stars is a good game.
Yes.
4 stars is a great game, and 5 stars is like, oh fucking hell, go out and buy it now. What are you doing?
Well, no, 5 stars is something. 5 stars is like something special. Like it's a unique experience, I suppose. Like, that's really exemplary, I guess. I don't know, whatever. It's open to interpretation. It's 5 stars, whatever. Stars are stars. But no, you do seem to really like that, and I think that's fair. I understand exactly what you're saying. That it's not like mind blowing experience. Like Richard said, there's a comparable and probably better experience to be had in the new Hitman game, which is an amazing piece of game design from last year. That game really is something else, that Hitman game. I definitely need to try and find some time to play some more of it, actually. But, Styx, it's different, isn't it? It's kind of unique. You don't get a lot of the sort of dark fantasy stealth games. That's not sort of a genre that's overplayed. So because of that, I also haven't played the previous game, but I quite like the idea of it. It seems I like a bit of something a bit unique, a little bit fresh. Sounds fun. I might check it out. However, I'm going to throw to Adam now, just to confuse him, because he's got his mic muted and he's going to have to unmute his mic. There you go.
I'm here.
Adam, before I ask you about Age of Rivals,
yes.
I'm confused. What's this Gunstar Heroes thing? What's that?
Oh, so well, you were saying people should add things to the show notes. The one thing I've seen recently, this video game content that I really enjoyed, but does involve plugging essentially a rival game site. Is 2 guys doing a series where they take an old childhood favorite of theirs and play it again to see if it holds up.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it's it's a cool concept. They call it "Don't Step on My Childhood," and they chose Gunstar Heroes this week, and so I got to sit and watch like 30 minutes of people playing Gunstar Heroes, and I'm a huge Gunstar Heroes fan, and
Gunstar Heroes does still stand up.
It absolutely still stands up. It's absolutely brilliant. What a game!
I'm just Googling it now because I can't remember if I've played it.
It was a Sega Mega Drive game, I think, wasn't it?
What? Yes, Sega Mega Drive game. And so...
No, don't think I have, no.
Mate,
the one thing that struck me about when I was watching it again, though, the one thing that, it's not that it doesn't hold up, but it's an observation that you maybe wouldn't have made as a child, but you will make now, is the bosses in that game are the most random tat you've ever seen in your life. It's good. There's no aesthetic to them at all. It's just 50 crazy boss ideas. This guy is sort of Tron man made of boxes, and then the next enemy is a disembodied face that tries to bite you, and then the next enemy is a spaceship.
So what you're saying is inconsistent level design, quite low res graphics. That's shit, isn't it? Based on these screenshots, I wouldn't go anywhere near that.
Probably one of the best games ever made.
Nah, it looks terrible. What garbage. Based on these 2 seconds of screenshots that I've now looked at, I've decided that I'm never going to play that game.
Well,
yeah, there you go.
You are wrong.
Sorry, guys.
But it was just wonderful to see it again and to remember just how good that game is.
Okay, it was just because the way you worded that, it was almost like like you said, I'd made a video for a rival game site.
No.
I was a little bit confused. It's like, Adam's stepping out, is he?
I just didn't want to I didn't want to pimp, CoolGhosts.net.
That's cool.
Too strongly, but Cool Ghosts is a really good games website, and everyone should go and see it.
Cool Ghosts.
Cool Ghosts, it's called, and it's just there's really good content. This video is worth seeing. I think Richard in particular
I am going to watch
would
that.
understand the joy of Gunstar Heroes.
Totally love Gunstar.
I mean, I'll have to watch a different video because Gunstar Heroes is shit. So, but I'll check out their site, obviously. But no, let's talk about the game. Age of Rivals, Adam. Age of Rivals. Literally, review has gone up about 3 or 4 hours ago to this morning. As we got it up on the site. Curious little game.
It is a curious little game. It's so it's a card game. It's a card game on Steam, and turns out there's a whole bunch of these have cropped up. Partly, I suspect, because Hearthstone is a thing, and people want some of that Hearthstone money, and also because if you've got an idea for a card game, I can see how the production costs are probably lower on Unity and just churning something out nice and quick, compared to getting a card game printed and then having to deal with the physical transport of stock and such forth. So it makes some sense. And this is definitely kind of a lower tier sort of thing. The production values they're okay, but they're not brilliant. It doesn't make great first impressions. It has the Unity default launcher, which I'm always a fan of. But
it makes me laugh and smile every time you bring that up in a review.
I'm never going to stop.
Love it.
I'm never going to stop. It is literally a checkbox to get rid of that. Just there's no excuse for it to still be there. So anyway, eventually I get to play the card game, and the card game itself, like I'm trying to avoid having to do the thing where I just sit and explain the rules of the game, because that is just not interesting for people to listen to.
No.
The card game is quite good. Much better than I was anticipating, in fact, and I really enjoyed playing the card game. It's based around a drafting mechanic, so basically you get given a hand of 4 cards, you choose the one you want to play this turn, and then you pass that hand of cards to your opponent, and now they choose one of the 3 you rejected to be their play for the next turn. And that means anything you don't use, you're giving to your opponent as an opportunity, which makes for some very interesting and very complicated decisions, where perhaps you want to build some very powerful object, but you're also passing him the card that's going to let him destroy it. So is that, you're essentially trading your choice for his second choice. Is that the right decision or not? It often comes down to some quite subtle little nuances in the game state, It's interesting. It's a really good, engaging, tactical, strategic, fun game to play. I'm not sure how much more there is to really say about it. It is literally just a card game, and it's always the same card game. There's a sort of campaign mode, but it doesn't really, the campaign mode is beat this AI opponent, now beat this AI opponent, now beat some more. So it's really, you're playing the card game. Do you enjoy the card game? Then this game's great. If you don't enjoy the card game, this game's not so great. I enjoyed the card game. The one thing I would mention is the card game itself is clearly heavily inspired by an actual card game that really exists. Now, it's not so close that, it's like this is an adaptation of that game, but there's a very strong design influence. They both work on some very similar principles. They both have this idea of you taking early on cards that generate resources that make later cards cheaper if you have that resource. So if you've got cards that make stone, your stone walls, when you buy them later, are much cheaper, things like that. There's also a concept of competition with your opponent, where if they've got a resource that you need for a card, you have to pay them for it, so you get to steal some of your opponent's gold by having a monopoly in stone or something. There's little bits and bobs in the rules. There's like nuances to it, but overall it's just a good game. I enjoyed the card game. The multiplayer mode is quite good. There's actually, I don't know if they're doing anything sneaky to make it look like there's players, but there are players, and I got to play this online about 5 times. Which is very unusual.
What would they be doing sneaky?
So what you can do is you generate a player name. You try and match for 30 seconds. I've played...
so AIs that you think are players.
I've worked on games that have done this. You play a match for 30 seconds, and if you can't find someone, you just generate a random player opponent name, and you just play with some sort of randomized AI settings.
Okay.
If they're doing that, then fair play to them. But it didn't feel like they were. It felt like I was playing against real humans. And it's pretty unusual for games at the sort of tier that I get them for you to be able to get a multiplayer game online.
However,
so there might be a player base.
That is one of the biggest problems on Steam, isn't it? There are so many multiplayer-focused games that just have no player bases that you might buy or go, oh, that looks cool, and then you're fucked because there's nobody to play it with. So, you know, even if they are cheating, at least they've thought of a system to give you something to do. So, I mean, that, you know, you can't really fault them for that. That's actually quite smart. Yeah. It sounds cool, man. You should check out your video. I think seeing it in motion helps. Yeah.
I got very excited when I saw your review, mainly because when I saw it come up on the Facebook feed and the thumbnail of it that it had chosen to show me before I started the video was actually a picture of the board game part that you edited into the video. Yes. And I thought, oh my god, Adam's reviewed a board game. I didn't know he reviewed board games. I got really excited about it. And then I watched the video, I was like, oh.
That's on me. I picked the thumbnails.
Ben likes to troll with the thumbnail selections.
I do a little bit, yeah.
I mean, if you're interested, the board game I used is the Peregrine Deluxe Edition, and I would review that as being excellent, and you should definitely buy it. But yeah, I mean, it's a good game. It's very hard to kind of review it in an interesting way because at the end of the day, it's a card game, you know. But it's a good one, and I enjoyed it.
Just so you guys know, Adam and Joel, both as you big board gamers, if you did want to review a physical fucking board game or a card game, I don't know how you do it, but you're welcome to. Like,
getting footage for that would not be fun.
Shoot on your iPhone or something, it'd be great. Or in Richard's case, his soon-to-be-sold Windows phone. So, you know, that's right.
I'll consider it next time. Like, I do tend to take like photos and diaries of some of the, because I have a board gaming group when we play every Wednesday. Yeah, I do take diaries and stuff of the games we're playing and things.
I thought you were going to say fetish then. I have a board gaming.
I have a board gaming.
Like, well, same thing.
Board gaming group, board gaming fetish. They probably are very similar. Not that far apart.
I'm tempted to ask you what the last game you played was then, because I'm sort of interested, but.
We're currently playing. Are any of you aware of a game called X-Wing Miniatures?
Yes.
I've actually played that. I haven't played a lot of board games, but I played that. I really like that.
Some fans have made a campaign for it, a co-op campaign called Heroes of the Alturi Cluster. So we're currently working our way through this fan campaign, and it is superb. The amount of effort they've put into making this. You have to print out hundreds of tokens, and like there are RPG cards and stuff like. And yeah, we're playing through at the moment. We're about 3 missions in, and it's really, really good. And it's fan made. So if you've got the base game and enough models between you, you can just print it out for free and play. And yeah, it's really, really good.
Like a mod. That's so cool. Like a mod for a PC game. What a cool idea. I never even thought of that for board games, but I guess that makes perfect sense. Yeah, it's just never been my thing. But I mean, I know for a fact, you know, board games are hotter right now than they've possibly ever been.
Yeah,
like they're really broken in.
Genuinely one of the great things about board games nowadays is that the mod tools for board games are freely available because they are scissors and Pritt sticks and like those are the mod tools for any board game you want to change. So
did you hear that, Richard? You could build something with your hands, you old man. You'd probably enjoy that, wouldn't you? Crafty stuff. Yeah. Cut out, stick together, bam. Not hard, is it? Jesus, Richard. Jesus. I don't know. Okay. I can't remember, Joel. Did you talk about playing Warhammer Quest on this podcast already?
No, I think I talked about having just been given it for review, possibly 4 weeks ago. Was it 4 weeks ago? Did I join?
Because you weren't on the last one.
I wasn't on the last one. No.
Okay.
I might have talked. Yes, I think we did talk about it briefly because I think Richard or Adam mentioned that they play it on iOS a lot. So I know someone else here has already played it. So yeah. It seemed to me like very true recreation of the board game. I've played the more recent Silver Tower board game, not the original Warhammer Quest, but I did do a bit of reading on Board Game Geek just to see kind of what it included and covered. It's pretty good. Like it plays obviously like events are random, and it truly is like ball crushingly random and evil as fuck sometimes. Like you'll open a room and you reveal the room. And then you resolve sort of enemies appearing in the room, and you might end up with a room full of spiders, and then fucking spiders like web up your whole fucking team, so they can't do anything. And then like the turn ends, and then it randomly just like, oh yes, we'll just spawn some more shit right behind you, and then you can go from like having a perfect game to just getting undermined and destroyed in 3 turns like that. It's just. You know, it's pure random number based, and it literally is sometimes controller throwing annoying when it does it, but. Yeah, it was good. It was a pure recreation of the board game. If you're a fan of the board game, then yeah, you probably enjoy it. The only thing I'd say is like when we played the board game Silver Tower, we tended to do just like take us a couple of hours to play one mission with us here. All together, and in the same time on the game you can probably do like nearly 6 dungeon crawls probably, so it can wear on you a bit. You sort of expose the repetitiveness of the mechanics in the game and it gets a bit boring, so there's a danger that if you do enjoy the board game you might sour your tastes by playing the digital version. But yeah, I can see how it worked much better on the tablet because you could just dip into it and dip out of it, whereas on the Xbox it's kind of like the interface also was shocking. Like the way the porting on the menu system and the interaction was absolutely atrocious. I think I wrote in my review, there's just some levels where it asks you to, at the start of the mission, you've got some negative effect, and it's like, well, one of your characters has to carry this negative effect for the duration of the dungeon. Please select your character. You cannot highlight the character selection bar. You can highlight the text above it and the button between it, and you've got like your four. So no matter what, your first character in your squad always has to take it. So frustrating.
That's a little bit broken. The main reason I threw to you on this, though, is that I was wondering if the announcement of Warhammer Quest 2 has you tenting in your trousers right now.
I'm curious. I'm interested to see. I've seen the first screenshot, which basically show huge graphical improvement. They've gone from basically a bird's eye 2-dimensional view to kind of a 3D isometric. So, but I'm not really seeing where they're going to improve the gameplay. If you know what I mean.
I didn't read the article or anything. I was wondering if you looked into it, because I sort of thought the same thing. Like, how is this going to be any different other than just more of the same? So
there isn't much. It was just a reveal with some screenshots, and it's they're targeting, I think, August this year for the release. So my expectation is it will be graphical, and they may update some of the stories and quests and stuff. Just to try and give it a different flavor, but yeah, the gameplay I imagine will stay the same. Maybe they'll add some more characters or some missing expansions from the board game that they didn't include before, but they haven't really said much.
No, fair enough. Okay, that's cool.
Warhammer Quest is an interesting one because the dark secret about Warhammer Quest is it does have a huge fan base, but this is because it was a reasonably good game in the mid-90s when it came out. Nothing was good in the mid-90s board game wise, though. Like, the actual board game is like, it's kind of dipping your bits in a bag full of mousetraps, the game, really. Like, you just sit there and wait to be smashed in the face. You just go, next room. Lol, I'm dead. Okay, fine, I'm dead. You know? There's no reasoning with it. It's just a hugely randomized system, and you just wait for it to kill you.
Okay. Cool. And talking about randomized systems, I played some more of Ghost Recon Wildlands and did a review of that. But I already talked about it quite a bit on the last podcast, so I just wanted to mention that game is still that game.
Did it get any better?
No, but it didn't get any worse. I mean, It's exactly what I expected from that game. And this is another problem with modern games criticism. It's not a bad game. However, it's being regarded as a bad game just because it's another one of those games. And you can still have a lot of fun with one of those games, especially if you're playing with your mates in co-op. I mean, that really elevates the experience. I wish I'd got more chance to play it in co-op. And it's the kind of game I'll dabble in and dip back into and check out again in the future and check out the DLC and stuff like that. However, it's Ghost Recon Wildlands is a perfectly fun, if tonally a bit fucked, experience. I really enjoyed it. I mean, if you guys have got any questions about it, ask me. But it's a very middle of the road, down the line Ubisoft open world, so it's kind of exactly what you'd expect. No, nothing.
It's horrendously broken, like seriously broken to the point that it makes it more fun. In
what way?
Like
physics are weird. Physics are very weird in the game.
Yeah, weird physics. Like people, you can have enemy soldiers standing at the bottom of a lake, just standing.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Through water. That sounds funny.
That's pretty good. The most fun I had was just sniping people at extremely long range with super powerful rifles. I mean, it's one of those games that's open to you breaking because it doesn't have randomized loot. Right, which means that it takes one quick Google and you can find out where all the best weapons are, and you can go anywhere on the map from the outset. So I basically made myself very, very effective very, very early on, and was therefore just owning everyone, which was quite fun in its own way, I guess. But I mean, I just went and got the best sniper rifle, the best assault rifle, all the best attachments. I did that within the first sort of hour. And then I just went around and dicked on everybody. I was just like waving my big cock around going, "You ain't stopping this bitch!" And that was fun for that regard, I guess. Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it.
I find the way you play games upsetting, Ben. I just really do.
Why is that
like literally that is the last thing I would ever do is what you've just described.
But why? I'm curious.
Go online and immediately Google where the best gun in the game is. To essentially play with a cheat mode from.
However, but you can't fault me for it because they've made the game that way. They know the internet exists. It's not like it's some mystery that's exactly what's going to happen. This is the thing. I've seen two different ways that people have covered this game and play this game. Right? You either play it in the sort of like least resistance kind of point of view, i.e., you can go into an encounter, you scout out where all the enemies are. You have this thing called sync shot. If you're playing in single player, so then you scout them all out, you target them, and then your AI guys, you just press a button and they just kill up to three people every 20 seconds. So you can basically creep through every encounter in the game and just do that, and therefore never really have any threat. If you want, you could just kill everybody like that if you wanted to, or you could do what I did.
I'm kind of with Adam on that. I mean, the way you said that, then, like, you can't fault me on it. They put it in the game.
It is like arguing, you can't fault me on it. That guy's wallet fits in my pocket, so...
I know, I was thinking...
No, it's not like that, guys. I mean,
would you do the same for Mass Effect? Would you go and, before you put the disc in, would you quickly Google how to complete Mass Effect really easily? Like,
it's a different game. It's a different type of game. I mean, I didn't play it like that with the sync shot thing. To me, that's boring. However, having in a game where enemies will die quite easily regardless of what gun you have, right? Because it's a Tom Clancy game. It's not hit numbers. It's one. If you shoot a dude in the head, they'll die. Right? So it doesn't really make... I'm not really breaking the game by getting the best sniper rifle. It just means I can shoot that guy in the head from longer distance. That's all it means. Or I can reload the gun a bit quicker, or I can take out a vehicle a bit faster. It's not... I mean, I think is in the spirit of the game because they've chosen to have fixed locations of the loot. So you can know exactly where to go to get stuff. And even if I didn't look it up online, when you go to an area, you can find intel, right? And if you find intel... And you have like various sort of routes for intel. So you can find intel towards the location of pickups, or intel towards the location of high-value targets, or intel towards the location of missions. If I just pick for the pickups, it then puts them on the map in that region, and I know exactly where they are from that. It's only one extra step. It doesn't take a lot longer. You could just do that in every region and find every gun within maybe 2 or 3 hours. I just made it 1 hour rather than 2 or 3. So it's like... it's not like I'm really cheating. Like, they've built all these...
I had temporarily forgotten we were talking about a Ubisoft sandbox game. There isn't really a curve to break there, so fine.
No, it's the way they make
ruin it any way you see fit.
That's kind of the point of this game. It is like they kind of realised there isn't really a story here. There is actually barely no story there, and it's a shame because some of the characters they create, you go, oh, he sounds fun. He sounds quirky and weird, like this guy I'm going up against. And then all you do is you find them and kill them. I mean, you don't really have any interaction with anyone in the game, except because they've just patched in the option to turn off the radio broadcast in the game because they're so awful. So you could just turn them off. They also have an option that they patched in previously, which I hadn't realized, which was to turn off squad talking to each other. The AI, so you wouldn't have to listen to your AI because they realized that these people are offensive, badly voice acted, and awful, awful people. You could just not hear it. I mean, it's just like they've just created this sandbox, and they know that's what they've got. It's still like Just Cause without the comedy. It's that's what they've made, and it's fine.
Just Cause with no sense of humor.
Yeah, or except the sense of the humor is completely unintentional, completely unintentional. However, I played a much more traditional game, and I'll admit I was probably the wrong person to review this because I don't have a great love or knowledge of the genre. However, I honestly didn't know if any of you guys did. So I kind of just I went for it and I did it. And I played Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which is a fighting game with a lot of fighting, and it's like 10 years old, and still that game that I played all those years ago. You know,
I've played this. I've just realized I've actually played this game. This was some new.
It's old. It's an old game. No, it's an old game.
I've got it on Vita. It's fun, isn't
it? It's great. It's great.
Oh,
totally broken. Totally broken. Basically, it's Marvel versus Capcom characters, the third iteration of said, and it's a big roster of weird, specifically Capcom characters like Phoenix Wright, who you wouldn't expect in a beat 'em up game. I'll be honest with you. He's definitely stood out as one of the odd choices, but there's plenty in there I didn't even know. Like, there's a deep selection, like 20 odd from each. So you've got a really deep selection of characters, and then you've got modes such as versus AI, versus couch adversary, versus online versus, and then you've got a kind of really ill-conceived sort of story mode, which has got lots of collectible cards which modify your attack powers and abilities, which I fucking hate, because it's an old Capcom game. And what does that mean? Terrible UI design. Like, the worst UI design that is confusing and a mess of numbers and icons and categories. And, oh my God, just don't play that mode. It's not worth the headache. But if you want a good fighting game to beat your friends up in, you know, it's 3v3 tag, which is insane, with lots of colorful over-the-top finishing moves and big screen covering ultra attacks and crazy combos, and it's actually quite a simple control scheme with like basically 3 buttons, which makes it very easy to pick up. And you can even play in an even more simplified control scheme if you really just want to hit a button and see things explode, which I guess you might do if you were playing a game like this, but it seems like an odd one to make so simplified, really. But they've obviously re-released this because they've got the new one coming out in the next few months, and it's like, let's get the whole MVC kind of thing out there again and remind people that this exists as a franchise. And it's released at a fairly budgety kind of price, and for what it is, I don't think it's the best fighting game on Xbox. I still think that's Killer Instinct, but it was decent. It was decent. I enjoyed it. Any thoughts or questions from anybody else?
Not really.
No. Lots of heads being shook.
No, I'm a massive fan of beat 'em ups. Like Smash Brothers was my favourite, and I've never.
That doesn't even count.
I've gone deep into a beat 'em up twice in my life, but the problem is, like, the stuff that really matters to the hardcore beat 'em up fan is way outside the remit of like this podcast. They're listening to some other dudes talk, with American accents about.
I'm waiting for the
interrupts and fucking
frames and all kinds of like counting the frames and stuff like that. Yeah, this is why I reviewed it, because I thought to myself, I don't think there's anybody on the team who is like that guy with beat 'em ups, who is that hardcore aficionado. I mean, the last one I truly loved and devoured was Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the SNES when I was about 10. That's going back a few years. I dabbled in Injustice. Those games are fun. I'm kind of looking forward to Injustice 2 because of the silliness of the setting. The Mortal Kombat games are great because I love the hyper violence of them. However, and Killer Instinct's fun because ultra combos and all that shit, and the announcer's great and the music's awesome. But yeah, I'm Surface as well. I'll admit that, and I think I say the same in the review. It's like I admit. Not my forte, but fun, colourful, explosions, awesome.
I would play that with you. I used to be fully into fighting games. I'm probably too old now. My reactions are shocked. Yeah.
Well, that's why there's literally a simplified control option in this game, which means you can basically hit 1 or 2 buttons and all your characters just do it for you. I mean,
that's like me going down to town in a mobility scooter. I'm not ready to admit I need that.
What you're saying is you could, but should you?
I don't think beat 'em ups are Twitch. I don't think beat 'em ups are Twitch skills at all, though. Beat 'em ups are much more just knowledge. You've just got to know the systems, and then it becomes a kind of rock paper scissors thing.
There is. I mean, I started down that road with Killer Instinct a little bit on the Xbox One when it was like a launch game. There wasn't a lot else out there. So I started really looking at and learning and maining a character and really starting to do that and really learn. And there is a level of satisfaction and enjoyment to be had from that, no doubt about it. Really getting deep into a fighting game and getting, playing the training modes, learning the combos, learning the openings, learning when to do the air juggle, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of fun to be had. However, I was like, well, Mass Effect's about to come out. I kind of want to do this review and get out of the way. So I'm not going to spend 4 weeks maining a team or whatever. You know, especially as it's a re-release, not even an original like game. It's a super old game at this point. So, you know, it's fun though if you're into that sort of stuff.
It's not the oldest fighting games come out this month. I did buy King of Fighters 98 last week.
Is that those weird Neo Geo re-releases I keep seeing on Xbox?
Yeah.
I
got it on Switch.
On Switch. Yeah. All right, okay. I was looking at that going, what is all this? Why are these all coming out at the moment? Why? I was really confused. No, you haven't got any answers, just cause.
I've got no. It's even more weird than it first appears because King of Fighters 98 came out a couple of weeks back, and then last week, King of Fighters 94.
Cool. Why not? Best one in the series.
Is it actually the year it was released, or is that the number of fighters in the game, as in like 4 permanently died for the sequel?
Yeah, maybe both.
I want to live in a universe where Capcom do that, where they release Street Fighter 3 and then follow it up with Street Fighter 2 Super Turbo. That's just brilliant.
Before we wrap the show, because we're coming up to time, I just want to head over to Richard for Nintendo Switch Corner. What games have you not been playing in the last 2 weeks? Because there's piss all to play on the console. Wow. So, Richard, how's it all going? How's the Switch? We're a bit out of the honeymoon period now. Things are getting real. Where you at?
Zelda is still giving. It's still incredible. I still haven't found half of the stuff in it. It is amazing. As I said earlier on, I haven't found a single problem with the game other than the boss design is kind of generic as a symptom of open world now. It does suffer slightly for that. I mean, traditionally Zelda games, the dungeons are focused around the latest pickup that you've acquired.
Yeah.
That's not the case here because you've got everything from the outset. So it's more about discovering which one you're supposed to be using in any given situation, particularly in the shrines that you can focus on a particular tool. But for the bosses, disappointingly, they're kind of a war of attrition, or at least you can get through them that way. So that's probably the only downside I've found in Zelda so far, and I'm still going. It's got absolutely tons left in it. Saying that, just having one game for a new console isn't the best, even if it is an amazing game. I have been forced to buy Super Bomberman for £50.
Jesus.
And you guys criticise my spending.
All right, yeah.
I was about to say, Ben, you're on about par now.
I mean, as a percentage, how much of the launch lineup do you currently own? Probably about, 50%? I
mean... well, what have I got? I've got Zelda, Bomberman, Snipper Clips, 1-2 Switch.
Oh, so 75%. Okay.
And King of Fighters. So, yeah, 5 games. There's probably about 15 on the store. Most of those are Neo Geo re-releases.
So how is Bomberman still Bomberman?
Tell you what, Adam, you'd like it because you know all that crap they added since the SNES one.
Yeah, that ruined it.
It's all gone. This is
yes!
the SNES game.
Yay! I mean, appalling rip-off, but yay!
Yes, £50 to remove all the shit. And
yeah, good.
Just reskin the SNES game with 3D graphics. That's your loss.
I mean, Bomberman is I remember playing on SNES. That was probably the last time I played it. It was a fantastically good game when I was 10. I mean, but like, do we need that again now? Why?
Bomberman through a multi-tap, greatest thing ever.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It kind of sells the hardware because if you're going to play anything on the fly, 4-player,
Bomberman,
chucking out a few Joy-Cons, Bomberman is the thing, right?
Yeah,
and you've got to kind of have that to show what the Switch can do. Saying that, I've not found 4 people that want to play Bomberman yet.
I would totally play Bomberman multiplayer always. That's
multiplayer Bomberman is awesome. That is awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah. We need to meet up and have a go. But
no, absolutely.
I bought it because if I do meet people that want to play a Switch game, that's where I'm going to be for multiplayer. Bringing it back round to more modern games, I played Splatoon 2 yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Demo, I take it.
Game. Yes. the what do they call it? I can't remember. The technical test went live yesterday, and Nintendo do this weird thing. It's not like a weekend of beta play where you can just play whenever you like. They have windows of 2 hours where you're allowed to log in and have a go, and then they kick you out. So
that's like what I've been doing with Sea of Thieves. So
is that what they're doing? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't talk about Sea of Thieves, but that's something I've been doing on a regular basis. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I've played a few games of Splatoon 2. I didn't play the first, so I don't know how it compares, but I understand that it's fairly similar. It starts weird because by default it's got motion controls, and when you think that this is a competitive first-person shooter, pretty much. Well, it's over the shoulder, isn't it? You know what I mean? A competitive online shooter, and it's in your hands, and it's got motion controls. So to aim, you're tilting your screen around. Doesn't really work. So
no,
that got turned off pretty quick, and I just switched it back to joystick controls, analog stick, and I had a great time with it. So it's really, really simple. Right stick aims, left stick moves you about, right trigger fires, and left trigger turns you into an octopus, because why wouldn't it? And then you can swim about in paint and move quicker than you would if you walked.
Yeah.
So the idea is you paint the environment, swim through the paint, and take over the arena in paint. Taking out your opponents in the map is kind of secondary to covering the map with colour.
Yeah.
It's just nice to...
So, exactly the same as the previous game? Or is it anything?
I think so. Yeah, I can't see that there's very much new. I believe there are new weapons. So there's like new hurling bombs that you can chuck that explode with paint when they reach a wall or something. So yeah, I haven't played the other stuff. The weapons are new.
So, Richard, let me know when your balls drop, and I'll recommend you a proper grown-up shooter. No worries, yeah.
See, I'm gonna argue with that.
He's really burned about this Mass Effect chat, isn't he?
He's really burned. So, did no one else really play Splatoon 1? Because I can't say I got really heavily into it, but I got opportunity to play it a few times in offices and such forth. And when I played it, I was like, "Holy shit! Nintendo have like reinvented first-person shooters." Like, seriously.
The problem is nobody had it.
I know it was on a dead console, but I felt it was an important game. Like, this is a thing, you know.
I played it at Eurogamer 2 years ago, I think, and it was it was really good fun. I really it was just a good game, really good concept, very quick, very simple to play, and the only reason I didn't buy it was because I knew I'd never have anyone to play it with, so it wouldn't be fun.
Also, friends codes.
Yeah.
Keep rocking those friend codes.
The way the Switch is going, there's going to be a better audience for this.
Yeah.
Well, they've had to up their production numbers, haven't they? Because it's far outstripped what they had. Well, that's so much bullshit, Nintendo. They knew it would do well. They under-manufactured like they always do, and now and therefore they can have a story that says they've had to double manufacturing numbers. It's the most obvious fucking play, but it works. So...
Every console manufacturer does this now, and they all know why they're doing it.
Yeah. Oh, on that note, haven't Sony actually finally ended production of the PlayStation 3 or announced it? They're going to actually stop making it. To those that weren't even aware that they still actually built them. Yeah.
I am actually a bit surprised by that.
Yeah. Wow. 10 years after launch, they're finally stopping the production run, basically, of PS3s.
I think it was similar, because they only did it for the 360 relatively recently as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
That had 10 years as well, I think. Yeah. It's kind of what they promised, isn't it? Both of them said, 10-year life cycle.
Testament to that generation of consoles. Both were very good.
Absolutely.
So
really good.
It outlasted the Wii U. I think that stopped a while back, didn't it?
They've still got to stop. They're trying to shift from the first production run, probably.
You know what? I might pick up a Wii U if I can get it for sort of 50, 70 quid, something like that. I might pick one up just to grab the half a dozen games that are worth playing. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, if they said to me, those games are going to all make it to Switch, I wouldn't bother. But I just wonder if.
I'm sure they will.
I think they will. Yeah, they'll inevitably creep over the
oh god,
Pikmin 3 and stuff. I think.
not to drag the time out on this podcast too much, but
it's all right. We're only a little bit over.
This made me laugh, and I thought I must tell the podcast guys this when I next get to talk to them. There is a games shop in Wellingborough where I now live that has a whole window dedicated to its like retro stock.
Cool.
It sells all kinds of old stuff. I swear to you, every bit of it is priced as if it's 1989. Like, there's a Desert Strike cartridge for the Genesis in that window with a $24.99 price sticker on it. And I'm like, awesome. You cannot be serious. It's all priced at RRP. I've never seen anything like it.
What? I don't even know. Okay.
None of it can be selling for even.
I was going to say, how does their business do? I mean, they're still open, so they must be doing right.
There's proper games over the other window, but this retro window, I just stood there in like awe of it, going.
I wonder, as
there
is
is no way.
I wonder if they stay in business by breaking street date on every new release game they get.
Oh, almost certainly.
Yeah,
yes.
I imagine that's what it will be. Yeah.
Every indie game stockist does that now.
Yeah, but that's the only way they can stay in business.
I mean, and in fairness to them, I was looking in that window mostly because there's certain cartridges I know still actually do hold a decent value, and I try to spot, the ones that the shop doesn't know about. Like, if you can get a copy of Zelda Link to the Past, even if it's just the cartridge, that still sells on eBay for like $25. And you can often see it priced for like a $5.
Yeah, it's always worth checking out. Also, a good reason. A friend of mine found the other day. You tabletop gamers and stuff will appreciate that. I think it was a sealed set, a brand new factory sealed set of Warhammer. I want to say, which group was it? Like a group of I don't know Warhammer that well, but it was a sealed box of brand new Warhammer Space Marines from 1992 or something like that. And he got it from a charity shop for like £3.
And then flipped. When they still had the cone heads rather than the new scary masks.
Were they plastic or the original lead cast figures from back in that era?
It was like an original Gen 1 set. Right. I said, I don't know enough about it, but somebody had basically given away their entire collection of classic Warhammer stuff to this charity shop. And he was able to go in and pick up a couple of brand new sealed, they'd been kept. You could tell they'd been kept hidden away because they weren't faded. They literally looked like they'd just come off the production line, but from 20 plus years ago. Fair and I was like, mate, and he's like, I want to open these and see what they're like. I'm like, don't know.
Wouldn't
for like how many hundreds of pounds? I have no idea, but I'm guessing they're going to go for some money. So it's always worth checking out your charity shops and stuff like that. You never know what you might find, especially if you're in a weird ass place like Welling.
Go in a Games Workshop. People love collecting the classic stuff. Absolutely. Even old issues of like White Dwarf magazine. I got rid of a load a while back, and to a guy in a shop for loads of money. People collect that stuff.
Yep. There's a real market for it, absolutely. Anyway, I think that should probably bring us to the end of episode 22, in which we've talked about a lot of games. Mostly Mass Effect, mostly me getting upset at Richard, but that's fine. I can't help everyone. He's an idiot. But that's. I think we'll be back in a couple of weeks. I'm trying to think. Are we kind of out of this crazy busy period now? Is it calming down, or are there still big releases on the horizon? I've kind of lost track. It's been such an intense few weeks for games and consoles and everything. So
it will be a quiet period. Article 50 next week, so no one will be able to afford another game after that. So.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we get sent them for free. So we won't have to buy them. And don't worry, I'll always be able to get your shit PC games off Keymailer, Adam. Don't worry about that. That's an infinite chain of garbage straight to your inbox. Saying that, you had doing all right.
And I played that bloody point and click for you, and you never asked me about it.
Well, no, because you've not put a review up, and I knew we were running long. But do you want to quickly touch on it? Go for it. Go on.
It's a Telltale knockoff. It's shit. There we are. Review on.
But the Guardian liked it. What are you talking about?
I don't know what's fucking wrong with them, because this is dreadful. Like, they're wrong.
Really?
Dude.
No, all right. Dreadful's harsh. I'll talk about it more next podcast. But it's not good. Like, it's not Guardian glowing prose good. No. Definitely not.
I wonder if they got like an intern to do that who couldn't really be bothered to play it or something, Just been given some game, and he's just like, amazing.
it's got quite good production values, and when you first start playing it, it looks like it's doing a bunch of stuff that it's not. So I reckon they played it for about 30 minutes and then went, "Oh yeah, it's one of them. Fine, we'll say it's good."
Did we mention what it was called then? I don't think we even did. Herald.
It's called Herald.
Herald, yes. Okay, cool. That's the end of episode 22 then. Follow us on Twitters, on BXB Games, and me, I'm at DIYE, Richard's at Colonel Red, Adam's at Breeding Dev. Joel, however, doesn't exist on social media, or he just doesn't want to share it because he doesn't want all the fan mail. He wants us to get it. Who knows why? And then also Facebook is BXB Games. I actually, talking about social media, I closed the Facebook group this week because nobody was using it. However, if you guys get in touch with me and tell me you want it to come back, then I can do that, but fine. I'd kind of always thought it was kind of redundant anyway, but there you go. By all means, find any review Adam's done and send him loads of abuse in the comments. He loves that.
Yay. I am an SJW snowflake cunt. Come on.
It's weird. He gets abuse for that. I get abuse for my review of WWE 2K17. Still to this day, YouTube comments telling me I'm a fucking idiot. Every other week I get something from that. It's so funny. I still stand by that review. That game is unfinished garbage, and Richard can also attest to that now. Yeah. So that game was fucked, isn't it? It's fucked. Proper fucked. Anyway, I should end this episode. We should end this episode. That's the end of the episode. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.